Chapter 30-24. Let's do it. But don't fight with anyone. We're in an awkward situation now. It's best to stay out of trouble. Seeing that the people from the 3 territories had begun to move, Jing Kuan, the vice leader of the Ming Yan territory, had ordered his people to fight for the treasure. However, he had ordered them not to fight with anyone. This was the most humiliating order in the history of the Ming Yan territory. However, Ming Ke had been killed by Night Sorrow. They could not join forces with Night Sorrow and Mu Tian'ai. Moreover, Xian Qingyu from the Jiu Xian territory had not extended an olive branch to them, so they could only tuck their tails between their legs. Brother Yi, everyone is moving. Why are you still sitting there? Seeing that Night Sorrow had not made a move, Mu Tian'ai walked over and smiled. There's no hurry. I want that silver spear. It's fine as long as no one fights for it. Night Sorrow looked at the silver spear and replied. There were many good things in the Myriad Treasure Palace. Even he did not have the ability to understand them in an instant. As for the silver spear in front of him, he wanted it the moment he saw it. My target is the innermost pagoda. Mu Tian'ai pointed at a small pagoda in the deepest part of the palace. The small pagoda was only the size of a palm. If one did not look carefully, they would not be able to see its existence. After Mu Tian'ai finished speaking, Night Sorrow looked at it with the sea serpent's eye. This is the aura of an earthly sovereign artifact. Could it be the Eternal Divine Tower? After looking at it with the sea serpent's eye, Night Sorrow immediately confirmed that the small pagoda was an earthly sovereign artifact. He asked in confusion. Hearing this, Mu Tian'ai smiled and said, I've heard that the real Eternal Divine Tower only exists in legends, surpassing the Earth Supremes. Although the small pagoda in front of us is an earthly sovereign artifact, it's definitely not the Eternal Divine Tower. Just as he finished speaking, Mu Tian'ai exclaimed, They seem to be in trouble. At this time, Night Sorrow looked at the people who had already made a move. After entering the palace, they were like ordinary people who had fallen into a quagmire. They could not fly at all and their speed had become extremely slow. Some of the weaker ones were even stuck in place, unable to move an inch. As for Xian Qingyu, he had already traveled 10,000 meters. His target was a half-step earthly supreme level longsword 20,000 meters away. The location of this longsword was 1,000 meters closer to the silver spear that Night Sorrow was paying attention to. It seems that one should take treasures of the same level as one's strength. Seeing the situation in front of him, Mu Tian'ai smiled and said. He thought for a moment and continued, if I'm not wrong, whoever goes the furthest will be the champion of this year's Battle of Providence. After all, the final champion of the War of Providence is not only determined by the strength of the territory, but also the strength of the individual. Yes, that's very likely. I'm making my move. Night Sorrow nodded and stepped into the palace ahead of Mu Tian'ai, heading towards the silver spear. The silver spear was too close to the long sword that Xian Qingyu wanted. If Xian Qingyu got the long sword, it would not be easy for him to get the silver spear. When Night Sorrow passed by the cultivators of the other territories, although they were hostile towards him, no one dared to attack him. At this time, Xian Qingyu was moving forward and did not care about these things. Haha! I got it! At this time, Jing Kuan of Ming Yan territory was the first to take an umbrella-shaped supreme artifact in his hand. Although this umbrella-shaped supreme artifact was of the same grade as the one in his hand, the aura that it exuded was much stronger. Holding it in his hand, Jing Kuan was very excited and was ready to move on to other items. If you want to get me, defeat me first. At this time, the weapon spirit of the umbrella-shaped supreme artifact appeared in the void. It attacked Jing Kuan. As the battle between them exploded, everyone understood that if they wanted to get the supreme artifact, they had to conquer it. While Jing Kuan and the weapon spirit were fighting, Night Sorrow was moving closer to the silver spear. He was about 5,000 meters away. At this time, he was close to the longsword that he had his eyes on. However, when he got closer, he did not take the longsword. Instead, he waited for Night's Sorrow. Obviously, he was afraid that his battle with the longsword's weapon spirit would lead to Night's Sorrow's sneak attack. In response, Night's Sorrow, who was close to the longsword, smiled disdainfully and continued to move toward the silver spear. He did not take Qianqingyu seriously at all. When he got close to the silver spear, Night's Sorrow immediately realized that the silver spear was actually incomplete. However, in its incomplete state, it was still at the level of a half-step to earthly sovereign. Obviously, when it was in perfect condition, it should be at least an earthly sovereign artifact. Very good. Fight with me, I will help you to successfully return to your peak. Even surpass your previous strongest state. Standing near the silver spear, Night's Sorrow immediately felt his chi and blood surging. You want to help my eternal silver dragon spear return to its peak? You are too arrogant. When the eternal silver dragon spear heard Night's Sorrow's words, it immediately said disdainfully, I don't care how great you were in the past. Right now, your best choice is to submit to me. Otherwise, you will be covered in dust forever. Being despised by the eternal silver dragon spear, Night's Sorrow said indifferently, if you want my eternal silver dragon spear to surrender, then show me your true strength. It's useless to talk nonsense here. After the eternal silver dragon spear said that, it completely exploded with a shocking aura. Obviously, it was much more powerful than an ordinary half-step to earthly sovereign artifact. What did Night's Sorrow choose? Why is its aura so powerful? The people who were in the middle of the battle were all shocked when they saw the aura of the silver spear that Night's Sorrow had chosen. God is really on my side. Night's Sorrow, after you make your move, you will die. Qianqingyu, who was closest to him, laughed. At this moment, he still did not attack the longsword that he had chosen. He wanted to launch a sneak attack after Night's Sorrow made his move. If you are confident enough, then launch a sneak attack on me. At this moment, Night's Sorrow looked at Qianqingyu and said that. Then, he started to fight with the eternal silver dragon spear. Although the eternal silver dragon spear was only controlled by the artifact spirit, its attack was very fierce. It was like a silver dragon, but also like lightning. It was extremely fast. Very good. It's powerful enough. Night's Sorrow, who was holding the golden heavenly halberd, saw how powerful the eternal silver dragon spear was, and his body instantly exploded with the strongest fighting spirit. Although the golden heavenly halberd was much weaker than the eternal silver dragon spear, in the hands of Night's Sorrow, the combat power that it released was obviously not inferior to the other party. For a moment, the two sides were engaged in an earth-shattering battle. After fighting for a while, no one could do anything to the other. How dare you threaten me? Let's see how you will die. What can you do if I attack? At this moment, Qianqingyu, who looked sinister, saw that Mu Tianai had also started to fight with a divine artifact. Immediately, he took out a secret treasure and threw it at Night's Sorrow. Clan M. Chapter 30-25. Qianqingyu threw out a secret treasure that looked like a pot lid. It looked like a pot lid, but its aura was very powerful. It was obviously of the supreme level. And it was very special. After it was thrown out, it immediately smashed Night's Sorrow's protective divine domain. After shattering Yi Shang's protective divine domain, the secret treasure that looked like a pot lid flew straight back to its owner. Qianqingyu, you're good. Night's Sorrow, whose divine domain was smashed, did not panic. Instead, he continued to fight with the eternal silver dragon spear. His combat strength had decreased to a certain extent after his divine domain was broken. It was a little uncomfortable to be suppressed by the eternal silver dragon spear. As for the eternal silver dragon spear, it did not seem to care about Xian Qingyu's sneak attack on Night Sorrow. It was still attacking Night Sorrow crazily. At this moment, Night Sorrow, who was feeling unhappy, completely exploded. He used the 33 Heavens battle secret technique and raised his strength to the strongest. He said coldly, "I don't want to destroy the spear body, so I've been holding back. Since you, as an artifact spirit, don't cooperate, then I'll annihilate you." Humph. You only know how to spout nonsense. This artifact spirit will destroy you right now. The eternal silver dragon spear replied arrogantly, and its attack became even fiercer. It was obvious that this artifact spirit had that kind of fierce personality. Soon, you will understand how ridiculous your choice is. Night Sorrow said coldly and roared, "Eternal Life Amplification Spear." He still attacked the eternal silver dragon spear with this move. In his opinion, he had to settle the internal situation first to resist the external threat. Boom! The moment Night Sorrow attacked with the eternal life amplification, the eternal silver dragon spear, which was originally fierce, was immediately frozen in place and stopped all attacks. Facing the power of destiny that Night Sorrow had deduced, as an artifact spirit, he had no ability to fight back at all. It was immediately shattered into pieces. "This time, are you convinced?" Night Sorrow asked as he reached out and grabbed the artifact spirit of the eternal silver dragon spear in his hand. "No. My eternal silver dragon spear would rather break than bend. Although your strength is stronger than mine, you are not qualified to make me submit to you. Just kill me." The weapon spirit of the eternal silver dragon spear said this out of the blue. There's a saying that a wise man submits to circumstances. Since you don't know what's good for you, you can only be annihilated. Your era is over. Be destroyed. Even though the spear spirit of the eternal silver dragon spear was defeated, it still looked down on Night Sorrow. This made Night Sorrow a little annoyed. He directly shattered the spear spirit of the eternal silver dragon spear and completely obliterated it. Then, he glanced at the eternal silver dragon spear and said, "I gave you a way out, but you didn't take it. You can only become a material." After saying that, Night Sorrow threw the eternal silver dragon spear into the golden heavenly halberd. Let the golden heavenly halberd completely absorb the eternal silver dragon spear. After absorbing the eternal silver dragon spear, the golden heavenly halberd was instantly promoted to half-step earthly sovereign. As for the eternal silver dragon spear, it would forever disappear in the long river of history. Night Sorrow, you've really wasted a great gift. You don't want such a good divine weapon, and instead, you use it as a material. Seeing Night Sorrow make such a choice, Xian Qingyu immediately mocked him. "If I'm not wrong, the other people in the Jiu Xian territory shouldn't have come here." At this time, Night Sorrow looked coldly at Xian Qingyu and said, "Next, we should settle the score for the sneak attack just now." "Humph. If they can't come, I'll just leave. I don't want the long sword in front of me anymore. Let's see what you can do to me." Xian Qingyu, who did not have much confidence in facing Night Sorrow, said and began to retreat. At this time, Night Sorrow did not pursue him. This was because he realized that Mu Tianai had also obtained a divine weapon. And he was already walking toward the small pagoda in the distance. The small pagoda should be 108,000 meters away. With his strength, he shouldn't be able to reach it. Seeing that Mu Tianai kept moving forward toward the small pagoda, he was puzzled and looked at some of the spiritual pills and secret treasures nearby. For him, the small pagoda was out of his reach. According to Night Sorrow's judgment, with the strength of half-step supremes, it was already very good for them to be able to walk 60,000 to 70,000 meters. It was impossible for them to reach the small pagoda. After that, Mu Tianai continued to move forward, but Night Sorrow soon fought with other spiritual pills and weapon spirits. Soon, he obtained many half-step supremes. Unknowingly, Night Sorrow had already walked more than 40,000 meters. Mu Tianai stopped at 71,000 meters, unable to go any further. Seeing Mu Tianai's performance, Night Sorrow relaxed a little. Now that he had obtained so many good things, he should not be inferior to Mu Tianai's ability. Therefore, he continued to fight with other opportunities without worrying. At this time, Xian Qingyu gathered all the people from the 3 territories and rushed toward Night Sorrow's position. They seemed to have obtained an incredible divine weapon that could temporarily resist the suppression of the palace. What's going on? Inside the space cave, Myriad Sword Sect saw the people from the 3 territories rushing toward Night Sorrow without being affected. He asked in surprise. They don't have such ability by themselves. They must have obtained some secret treasure. Seeing the people from the 9 Mysteries Estate, Divine Spirit Estate, and Burning Sky Estate approaching him, Night Sorrow did not panic. He moved and continued to walk deeper. He did not believe that the secret treasure in the palace would be so mysterious that it could block the suppression without limit. As expected. When the people from the 3 territories reached about 40,000 meters, ordinary cultivators could no longer move forward. Then, only Xian Qingyu, the leader of the Divine Spirit Estate, Holy Ape, and Burning Sky Estate's Fan Mia were left. You guys stay here and see if you can get some opportunities. Also, stop the people from the Life Extension Estate and don't let them overtake us. The 3 of us will deal with Night Sorrow and Mu Tianai. Xian Qingyu said. Then, he led the leader of the Divine Spirit Estate, Holy Ape, and Burning Sky Estate's Fan Mia toward Night Sorrow's position. With the help of the secret treasure, the 3 people who were weaker than Night Sorrow gradually closed the distance between them. At this moment, Mu Tianai suddenly sat down and meditated. His aura seemed to have changed in an instant. Mu Tianai, are you trying to advance to the Supreme Being level here and then fight for the small pagoda? Seeing the change in Mu Tianai's aura, Night Sorrow immediately realized what he was trying to do. At this moment, Xian Qingyu shouted, Mu Tianai wants to advance to the Supreme Being level. It will take a while. The 3 of us. Kill Night Sorrow first, then kill Mu Tianai. As long as we kill them, we will be able to take the top 3 places. Okay. We will do our best. The leader of the Divine Spirit Estate, Holy Ape, and Burning Sky Estate's Fan Mia said in unison. At this moment, Night Sorrow was not far away from Mu Tianai. He could easily lead the battle to Mu Tianai's position. However, he did not do that. Instead, he faced Xian Qingyu and the other 2 alone. Clan M. Chapter 30-26. Night Sorrow. Let's see how you're going to escape this time. Xian Qingyu, who was leading the Holy Ape from the Holy Spirit territory and Fan Mia from the Burning Sky territory, chased after Night Sorrow. At this moment, the palace's suppression was very strong. Although they had secret treasures on them, their movements were still very slow. If they were to fight, there wouldn't be any flying skills. It would be more like a fight between martial arts experts. Everything would seem to be returning to its original state. In this situation, Night Sorrow wasn't afraid. He looked at Xian Qingyu and said, I'm not going to escape. After saying that, Night Sorrow grasped the golden heavenly halberd in his hand. He originally thought that in the final battle, he would face many cultivators from these territories. Now that he was facing Xian Qingyu, Holy Ape, and Fan Mia, he felt that he had won. At least, Mu Tianai didn't fight against him with them. After all, the territories of the Divine Realm could be said to be enemies with the whole world. If you're not going to escape, then prepare to die. Xian Qingyu, who was facing Night Sorrow, had a crazy look on his face. In his opinion, he only had 2 opponents left. As long as he defeated Night Sorrow and Mu Tianai, the 9 profound territory would be the final champion. Therefore, he was very excited at this moment. Moreover, Mu Tianai was trying to break through to the supremacy realm. Xian Qingyu was a little anxious. He didn't want him to succeed. After saying that, he shouted, "Attack, use your strongest move. Kill him instantly. We're 3 against 1, there's no way we can't kill him. Okay. Attack. We can't delay, Mu Tianai is still there." The Holy Ape from the Holy Spirit territory was like his name, an ape like Holy Spirit. He was very tall and spoke loudly. Not only did his words put pressure on Night Sorrow, but it also made Mu Tianai, who was cultivating, frown. Mu Tianai was so shocked by his words that he vomited blood. Obviously, the Holy Ape wasn't just talking. He directly used a sound wave attack on Mu Tianai. However, Mu Tianai didn't stop his rhythm because of this and continued to cultivate. At this moment, the Holy Ape from the Holy Spirit territory smiled and continued, "When the battle starts, I won't let Mu Tianai off." Very good. Xian Qingyu smiled and said, "Let's attack together and eliminate Night Sorrow." Good. Burning Heaven 7 Slaughter Art. Incineration responded and immediately attacked Night Sorrow. Originally, this move of his could have produced an earth-shattering effect. However, under the suppression of the palace, the area of effect was much smaller. Even so, it was still able to burn a large area. Not only did the flames engulf Night Sorrow, but they also affected Mu Tianai. This made Mu Tianai extremely uncomfortable. At this moment, Night Sorrow was rather speechless. Because he was wearing the Phoenix battle armor, he was basically unafraid of fire. This burning flame attack did not pose any threat to him at all. Night Sorrow thought to himself, "If I'm not mistaken, this incineration won't have any effect at all." However, that was not the case in the eyes of Xian Qingyu and the others. When he and Sacred Ape saw that Night Sorrow was covered in flames, they felt that Night Sorrow must have been suppressed. Thus, they each began to attack. Sacred Ape took out an incomparably huge iron rod and smashed it towards Night Sorrow's position with great force. As for Xian Qingyu, he took out a disc-like Dharma artifact from his spatial artifact and threw it towards Night Sorrow's head. After this Dharma artifact was thrown out, it immediately emitted a dark black light. After being illuminated by this black light, Night Sorrow felt that 10% of the strength in his body seemed to have been sucked away. Traystrymsa Heaven Battle Secret Technique. After losing 10% of his strength, Night Sorrow instantly used the Traystrymsa Heaven Battle Secret Technique to increase his strength. Holding the golden heavenly halberd, he smashed it towards Sacred Ape's iron rod. An earth-shattering sound of metal colliding rang out. When everyone saw this, they were immediately shocked. Night Sorrow's golden heavenly halberd had actually made a dent in Sacred Ape's divine tool with one strike. Night Sorrow's divine tool is terrifyingly hard. Both of you, be careful. Sacred Ape was very distressed that his divine tool had been damaged in one strike. Xian Qingyu snorted and said, "Who cares if it's terrifying or not? Let's just attack together. 2 fists are no match for 4 hands. He definitely won't be able to withstand our attacks." After saying this, Xian Qingyu took out his supreme grade longsword. Previously, he had been guarding against Night Sorrow and had not used his half-step earthly supreme grade longsword. This was because his divine tool was also a grade lower than Night Sorrow's. As for Incinerate, the sudden appearance of his own flames did not seem to have much effect on Night Sorrow. After thinking for a while, he took out a pair of bronze hammers from his spatial artifact. His pair of bronze hammers looked very small, only the size of a palm. However, they gave off an extremely heavy feeling. This pair of bronze hammers seems very extraordinary. Night Sorrow used the sea serpent's eye to observe them and immediately felt that this pair of bronze hammers was different from the rest. It was different from the Samsara heavenly halberd and Xian Qingyu's long sword. It gave off a sense of vicissitudes of history. At first glance, one could tell that it was a divine tool that had been passed down from ancient times. Not only did Knight Sorrow realize this, Xian Qingyu also praised, "This pair of bronze hammers is very extraordinary. With their help, it will be easier for us to kill Knight Sorrow. This is a life-saving item that the holy leader gave to me," Incinerate said as he raised the bronze hammers and threw them towards Knight Sorrow. There was no need for Incinerate to control them. The pair of bronze hammers attacked Knight Sorrow ferociously. After the collision with the bronze hammers, Knight Sorrow suddenly realized that this was a damaged earthly supreme-grade divine tool. At this moment, he was puzzled. If there had been an earthly supreme-grade divine tool many years ago, then there must have been an earthly supreme-grade divine tool. However, in the eternal supreme world, the first earthly supreme-grade divine tool was supreme longevity. And supreme longevity survival was not that long ago. It gave off a feeling that it was not as old as the pair of bronze hammers in front of him. What's going on? Could it be that there was an even older existence in the foggy area that Xie Jian spoke of? And where did he get this pair of bronze hammers from? If he got it from there, does that mean that the people in Burning Sky territory already know the secret of becoming an earthly supreme-grade divine tool? At this moment, Knight Sorrow, who was fighting against the bronze hammers, was suddenly filled with thoughts. However, these were all guesses without much evidence. He was not sure if he was prepared. Moreover, Xian Qingyu and the Holy Ape were already attacking him. Both sides quickly formed a situation where three heroes were fighting against Lu Bu. No matter how strong Knight Sorrow's close combat skills were, he did not have the ability to be distracted and think about problems. Wielding the golden heavenly halberd, he fought against the three of them. Among the three of them, Incinerate's divine tool was the best and gave Knight Sorrow the most pressure. Against his bronze hammers, Knight Sorrow felt as if he was fighting against the heavens and earth. It was a very special feeling. At this moment, he had a slight epiphany in his heart. However, as he was in the middle of a battle, he naturally would not stop to cultivate. Instead, he continuously waved the golden heavenly halberd and fought madly. Chapter 30:27. Everyone had been fighting for about 100 breaths of time, and they were all evenly matched. Knight Sorrow's strength was definitely stronger than Xian Qingyu and the rest. However, he was facing three top geniuses after all. Even he found it difficult to gain an absolute advantage in a short period of time. However, the golden heavenly halberd that had absorbed the eternal silver dragon spear was very capable. In the confrontation with the strange copper hammers, it was not at a disadvantage at all. What surprised Knight Sorrow the most was that the fire beacon smoke diagram he used did not have any effect on the three people in front of him. This was because the moment he took out the fire beacon smoke diagram, the other party threw out a defensive secret treasure. Both sides were completely matched. It seems that if I want to completely injure one of them, I can only use the eternal life amplification spear. After thinking for a moment, Knight Sorrow decided to use his current strongest killing move. Eternal Life Amplification Spear. However, using this move was very dangerous. Because the consumption was too great, if he could not seriously injure at least one person in one strike, he would definitely fall into a disadvantage. It's not a good idea to continue like this. Eternal Life Amplification Spear. After deciding to use this move, Knight Sorrow found an opportunity to use a Divine Essence Trap Array on Xian Qingyu and a Merit Trap Array on Sacred Ape. Moreover, he directly used the Eternal Life Amplification Spear on Fan Mia. At present, the strongest person on the other side was Xian Qingyu, but what made Knight Sorrow the most uncomfortable was still Fan Mia's pair of copper hammers. Furthermore, the roar of Sacred Ape during battle could disturb Mu Tianai who was cultivating. Therefore, without thinking, he locked onto Fan Mia. Not good. After being locked onto by Knight Sorrow's Eternal Life Amplification Spear, Fan Mia felt that something was wrong. He felt that at this moment, his throat was grabbed by the power of destiny, and he instantly lost the ability to resist. It seems that you can't resist the power of destiny. Knight Sorrow suddenly used the golden heavenly halberd to pierce Fan Mia's dantian while he was motionless. Moreover, under the interference of the copper hammers, Fan Mia's divine soul was destroyed. Once Fan Mia died, the pair of copper hammers immediately became ownerless and no longer resisted. Knight Sorrow immediately put the hammer back into his grotto heaven and said, "This hammer is very special, but I don't have time to observe it. You guys study it. This bronze hammer is clearly an ancient artifact. It gives off a sense of vicissitudes from billions of years ago. It's definitely not an ordinary object." After taking a look, Xiao Tianxian made his judgment. "I feel it too. However, I feel that this bronze hammer is not as simple as an ordinary divine artifact. It would be a waste to burn it down. See if you can figure out what it does." Knight Sorrow instructed. Everyone could feel that this copper hammer was extraordinary. Since it was not an ordinary item, it was definitely not an ordinary close combat divine weapon. At this time, Wu Lingfei reminded, "Knight Sorrow, leave the matter of the hammer to us. Focus on the battle." "Good. Now that they've lost Fan Mia, the threat shouldn't be too great." After saying that, Knight Sorrow turned his attention back to Xian Qingyu and Sacred Ape. Seeing that Fan Mia had been killed, Xian Qingyu cursed angrily, "Damn it. I was careless just now. I was trapped by his sudden move or I would have been able to save Fan Mia." "Me too. I couldn't react in time." Sacred Ape sighed. Knight Sorrow was very glad. If he had not been able to kill Fan Mia with that move, he would have been in an extremely dangerous situation. "Brother Qingyu, what should we do now?" Sacred Ape asked guiltily. Previously, the three of them were evenly matched with Knight Sorrow. Now that there were only two left, there were only two of them left. "We'll give up on Knight Sorrow and attack Mu Tianai directly. These two hidden dangers, one is better than the other." Xian Qingyu thought for a moment and locked his gaze on Mu Tianai. At this time, Mu Tianai was cultivating and he was ready to launch a sneak attack. "All right. In a moment, we will launch a sneak attack on him. If he dares to cultivate in such an environment, he must be overconfident." Sacred Ape replied with telepathy and continued to fight Knight Sorrow with Xian Qingyu. Something's not right. After a few rounds, Knight Sorrow realized that Xian Qingyu and Sacred Ape's attacks were getting weaker and weaker. He was surprised. He thought that Xian Qingyu and Sacred Ape were plotting something. However, Knight Sorrow soon realized that Xian Qingyu and Sacred Ape's real target was Mu Tianai. Knight Sorrow did not stop them. Although Mu Tianai did not show any hostility, if they wanted to fight for the championship, they would have to fight. He was not stupid enough to help his enemy and let his enemy break through to a higher cultivation level to deal with him. That was not benevolence, it was stupidity. "Xian Qingyu, how dare you? You can't defeat Knight Sorrow, so you're trying to provoke me." Mu Tianya's thoughts of advancing to a higher cultivation level were completely disrupted. His face, which was originally emotionless, was now filled with hatred. Xian Qingyu and Sacred Ape immediately showed signs of fear when they saw his cold killing intent. Sacred Ape was puzzled. Logically speaking, he should have suffered a serious backlash when his cultivation was interrupted. "Why can't I see it now? It should be a disguise. I think he's just putting up a strong front," Xian Qingyu said. Now that things had come to this, they had no way out and could only bite the bullet. Otherwise, it would be too embarrassing. The mysterious Mu Tianai is finally going to make a move. After Mu Tianai, Xian Qingyu, and Sacred Ape started fighting. Night Sorrow was not the only one who had his eyes locked on them. Even Xiao Tianxian, Wu Lingfei, and the others were watching the battle. Looking at it, everyone's heart sank. Mu Tianya's combat strength was too terrifying. When he fought, he held a paper fan in his hand and easily suppressed the two of them. Do you think that you're my match just because you can't defeat Night Sorrow? Xian Qingyu, the biggest advantage of the Jiu Xian territory is that you have more people. Not your personal combat strength. You're destined to be useless in this palace. Because this place belongs to the strong. After Mu Tianyi finished speaking, he completely exploded. His combat strength was not stronger than Night Sorrow's, but Xian Qingyu and Sacred Ape were still unable to resist him. Under such circumstances, the two of them wanted to escape. But the secret treasures they had just used were greatly reduced. In terms of speed, they could not compare to Mu Tianyi and were quickly killed by him. After killing Xian Qingyu and Sacred Ape, Mu Tianyi smiled and walked to Night Sorrow's side. Although I don't know the rules, the champion will be between you and me. Shall we fight now or fight for the treasures first? Whatever you want, I'll accompany you. Night Sorrow looked at Mu Tianyi. At this time, there were only the two of them left. There was nothing else for them to guard against. Clan M. Chapter 30-28. I think we should team up for the time being. We'll go back and eliminate everyone else. When it's just the two of us, we'll go all out. This way, we'll at least be able to get into the top two. Mu Tianyi looked at Night Sorrow and said. Night Sorrow did not recover immediately. Mu Tianyi sighed and said, originally, I wanted to advance to the supreme stage and then take down the small pagoda. But now, I don't have that hope anymore. I can only focus on fighting for the championship. Brother Yi, don't agree with him. I feel that this Mu Tianyi is very strange. But I can't tell what's wrong with him. But he's definitely not as humble as he looks. Hearing Mu Tianyi's words, Myriad Sword Sect immediately reminded him. It's fine. We're not afraid of him. Night Sorrow replied Myriad Sword Sect, then looked at Myriad Sword Sect and said, okay. Okay. We'll attack immediately. Wipe them all out. Mu Tianyi, who withdrew his murderous aura, gave off a refreshing feeling. Night Sorrow felt that the feeling Mu Tianyi gave him was very similar to the feeling he had when he obtained the pair of copper hammers. Both of them had the aura of vicissitudes. If he did not obtain the incinerated copper hammers, he would not have known this. Could it be that this Mu Tianyi came from the fog area? Thinking of this, Night Sorrow could not help but be vigilant. After that, Night Sorrow and Mu Tianyi temporarily joined forces and returned to attack the people of the four territories. Under the cooperation of Night Sorrow and Mu Tianyi, the people of the four territories were finally completely united. But they were still eliminated one after another. After eliminating the people of the four territories, Mu Tianyi glanced at Night Sorrow and said, we've consumed a lot, but we've also gained a lot. Why don't we start the final battle half a month later? No. We can't agree to this. Hearing this, Xiao Tianxian immediately said, asking Night Sorrow to reject it. Myriad Sword Sect agreed with this, yes. That's right, we can't agree to this. If he advances to the supreme stage in half a month, we'll be in danger. This is the same as releasing a tiger back into the mountains. At this time, Wu Lingfei suddenly said, agree. However, both sides had to agree that they would not fight for half a month. Make him swear an oath. There's nothing wrong with your character, but he doesn't know if you'll go back on your word. Oh. You said that, didn't you? Xiao Tianxian asked in puzzlement after Wu Lingfei finished speaking. Wu Lingfei continued, I've discovered the hammer's secret. We can help Night Sorrow seize the tower. As long as he could get his hands on that earthly sovereign-level pagoda. So what if he can become a supreme being? Are you that confident? Xiao Tianxian asked doubtfully. It shouldn't be a problem. Wu Lingfei nodded. The true name of this pair of hammers should be restriction-breaking hammers. When it was in perfect condition, it could break through all earthly sovereign seals. Although I've already suffered heavy injuries, I can still break through all the restrictions below the earthly supreme level. I see. If the hammers can break through the restrictions, then getting close to the small pagoda will be very easy. Master Wang Jian was also excited, but then he said, but every artifact here has to go through a battle before it can be subdued. Although Brother Yi is a genius, how can he be a match for the small pagoda's artifact spirit? That small pagoda doesn't have an artifact spirit. Wu Lingfei explained, this is what the artifact spirit of the hammers saw. Now, one of the hammers has already recognized me as its master. With Wu Lingfei's explanation, everyone suddenly understood. Originally, the hammers were divided into male and female. Now, the female hammer had already recognized her as its master. The male hammer was waiting for Night Sorrow. So this pair of hammers has such an ability. Hearing them talking about Night Sorrow, he thought for a moment and felt that he should choose to agree with Mu Tianai. So he said, you and I swear an oath to the heavenly Tao that we won't fight for half a month. Good. That's exactly what I want. Mu Tianai smiled and happily swore an oath to the heavenly Tao. Then he turned around and left, not caring at all whether Night Sorrow swore an oath or not. This Mu Tianai seems to think that he has taken advantage of us. After seeing Mu Tianai turn around and leave, he increased the distance between them and began to cultivate again. Obviously, he wanted to break through to the supremacy stage again. When he entered the state of cultivation, Master Wang Jian laughed. Ignore him, let's go get the small pagoda. After Night Sorrow finished speaking, he communicated with the male hammers and asked them to recognize him as their master. After the hammers recognized him as their master, Night Sorrow completely understood their history. It turned out that this pair of hammers really did come from the fog area. However, they were damaged and did not have a deep memory of the fog area. He did not get much useful information from them. He only knew that the fog area was very dangerous and there were all kinds of powerful existences. It really can break through the restrictions. Then, Night Sorrow summoned the hammers. Sure enough, they could continuously break through the restrictions. They broke the restrictions binding him bit by bit. Soon, they arrived at the 90,000-meter mark. After arriving at this position, Night Sorrow turned around and looked at Mu Tianai. He found that Mu Tianai's aura had completely soared to the sky. This was the sign of a breakthrough. Therefore, Night Sorrow asked the male hammers, that person's aura, did he also come from the fog area? Can you see through his depth? That person should be the reincarnation of an expert. If no one disturbs him, he will definitely break through to the supremacy stage. The male hammers replied and continued, why don't you attack him now and sneak up on him? You can definitely defeat him in one fell swoop. I've already sworn an oath to not attack him for half a month. Night Sorrow shook his head and said, let's continue forward. He knew that any earthly supremacy divine artifact was extremely extraordinary. If he could get the small pagoda, he would definitely be able to fight Mu Tianai. This Mu Tianai was very special. He was the first evenly matched opponent Night Sorrow had encountered in the same realm. The restriction-breaking hammer is really powerful. After Yi Shang finished speaking, the restriction-breaking hammer continued to attack, bringing him to a position of 100,000 meters. He was only 8,000 meters away from the small pagoda. The myriad sword sect could not help but praise. Humph. This is nothing. When we were at our peak, we could even break the seals of earthly supremacies. Hearing this, the male hammers said disdainfully and continued to break the seals. At this time, Moonfeather Earthly Supremacy, who was watching from the sidelines, could not help but frown. I didn't expect Night Sorrow to be able to survive until now. If this continues, the Earthly Supremacy Divine Artifact will definitely be taken by him. Feng Wuji shook his head and said, an Earthly Supremacy Divine Artifact will not be so easily controlled by an overlord. Even if it does not have an artifact spirit, it will not be so easily subdued. As for the other supremacies present, they did not look too good. This was especially so for the supremacy from the Burning Sky territory. When he saw the restriction-breaking hammer's ability, he was so angry that his face turned red. If they had known earlier that the restriction-breaking hammer was so powerful in breaking seals, they would not have handed it over to Fun Mia. Clan M. Chapter 30-29. No matter what, Night Sorrow has shown that he is not inferior to the Supreme Longevity. When he comes out, I will definitely kill him. Moonfeather Earthly Sovereign looked at Yi Shang with a cold expression. On the surface, he did not want Night Sorrow to obtain the replica of the Eternal Divine Tower. However, he was already looking forward to it. This was because he felt that there was no difference between him and Night Sorrow obtaining it. Everyone present was well aware of this matter, but no one dared to say it out loud. Feng Wuji was not in the mood to do so. Then, under everyone's gaze, Night Sorrow relied on the restriction-breaking hammer and approached the small tower step by step. When he was close enough, he took a deep breath and summoned the small tower. There is no response. I can confirm that there is no artifact spirit. After saying that, Yi Shang decided to take action and take the small pagoda. Wu Lingfei reminded him, be careful. The Earthly Sovereign artifact is definitely not that simple. Don't worry. Night Sorrow replied. At this time, Xiao Tianxian also explained, the Earthly Sovereign Divine Artifact is extraordinary. He tried to communicate with it again. If there was no response. If there is no response, you can just take it. All right. I will be careful. I will try again. If it doesn't work, I will take action. Night Sorrow replied and tried to communicate with the small tower again. He still did not get anything. He used his power of merit and tried to wrap it around the small tower, but there was still no response. Since there is no response, I can only take it by force. According to everyone's reminder, Night Sorrow had already done what he needed. However, there was still no response from the small tower. Night Sorrow wanted to take it into his space. Buzz. However, after Night Sorrow made his move, he was met with a huge echo. The small tower did not move at all. I will try to get closer, Yi Shang said and walked towards Lil Pagoda. Although the replica of the Eternal Divine Tower was without an owner, it had its own defense. After getting closer, Night Sorrow immediately felt its oppressive power. That kind of suppression came from the Earth Sovereign level, and Night Sorrow had more or less absorbed some of it. Otherwise, he definitely wouldn't be able to withstand it. At this moment, he had activated the 33 Heavens Battle Secret Technique, the Phoenix Battle Armor, and the Power of Virtue. With these, he was able to slowly approach the small pagoda. After getting closer, Night Sorrow gently touched the small tower with his fingertips. Boom! Just as Night Sorrow's fingertips touched small pagoda immediately retaliated. It sent Night Sorrow flying. The tremors were so severe that even the people in the God World's paradise were shaken to the core. Even though Night Sorrow's body was made of copper and iron, he was still shaken to the point that several of his bones were fractured. After swallowing a few recovery pills, Night Sorrow said, "This small pagoda shouldn't be so easy to conquer. I'm going to try and see if I can make it recognize me as its master by dripping my blood on it." Good. At this point, we can only try our best. The knowledge of the people in the God world was not outstanding at all in the eternal supreme world. No one could give Knight Sorrow any useful advice. After he spoke, Master Wan Jian agreed. I'll give it a try now. After making up his mind, without any hesitation, he took out some blood from his fingertips and dripped it on small pagoda. However, a moment later, these few drops of blood were spat out by the small tower. Obviously, this imitation of the eternal divine pagoda rejected his blood very much. Blood won't work either. How should I do it? Knight Sorrow glanced at Mutianai and found that Mutianya's aura was getting stronger and stronger. He was not far away from the Earth's sovereign level. He said anxiously. No matter what, he wanted to defeat all his opponents and bring back the championship for the God world. However, if Mutianai successfully broke through and he didn't make any contributions, he would be no match for him even if he fought to the death. This Mutianai in front of him was obviously not ordinary. He killed Xian Qingyu and the Holy Ape as if they were toys. Even if he didn't break through, he would still be difficult to deal with. Breaking through to the Earth's sovereign level was like leaping through the Dragon's Gate. His strength would definitely increase by leaps and bounds. At this moment, Xiong Chui suddenly said, Master. Your method is not very reliable. Oh. Do you know other ways to make a divine artifact recognize you as its master? The forbidden copper hammer used to be an earthly sovereign divine artifact. Although it was severely damaged, causing the artifact spirit to lose some of its memories, Xiong Chui knew more about it. When it came to making a divine artifact recognize its master, it knew more than Knight Sorrow. When he heard this, he immediately asked with anticipation. Yes. According to my senses, this earthly sovereign divine artifact didn't come from the foggy area. However, it's an imitation of a divine artifact in the foggy area. Xiong Chui said and continued, I remember that there is only one way to make a divine artifact recognize you as its master in the foggy area. That is to match your fate. Match your fate. What do you mean? Hearing this, Knight Sorrow was puzzled. The others in the God world had no idea what Xiong Chui was talking about. Match your fate is the only way to make a divine artifact recognize you as its master in the foggy area. Xiong Chui continued. Oh. Do you know how to match your fate? Knight Sorrow asked expectantly. I know. However, if you want me to hand it over to you, I have a condition. Xiong Chui said with some embarrassment. Hearing this, Knight Sorrow smiled and said, if you have any conditions, just tell me. If I can fulfill them, I will try my best to fulfill them. Okay. Then I'll say it. Actually, we let you and Wu Lingfei recognize you as its master so that one day, we can completely recover. I hope that in the future, if you get any earthly sovereign level materials, you will give them to us first. Let us return to our peak. The male hammer of the restriction breaking hammer slowly stated his request. I agree to this condition. Before you recover to the level of earthly sovereign, I will give you priority to devour any materials that I get. Hearing the other party's request, Yi Shan agreed without hesitation. This was because such a request was nothing. Good. Then I will immediately teach you the method of matching your fate. After receiving Yi Shang's affirmation, the weapon spirit of the male hammer was extremely excited. It immediately transmitted the method of matching birth charts to Yi Shang. So that's how it is. After learning the secret method, Knight Sorrow immediately understood. It turned out that matching fate was basically the same as the literal meaning. It was to let Knight Sorrow provide his fate to the small tower. If his fate or future could meet the potential requirements of the small tower, it would be able to recognize him as its master. If his fate was not as good as the small tower and did not meet its requirements, then there was no way to make it recognize him as its master. Everyone. I have mastered the secret method. Now, I will try it one last time. This time, I will either succeed or die trying. After saying this, Night Sorrow began to use the fate matching technique on the small tower. Clan M. Chapter 30. When Night Sorrow used the fate matching technique, Small Pagoda shook violently. However, it did not continue to attack Night Sorrow or shake him away. At this moment, Night Sorrow felt as if his mind and Small Pagoda were one. His past was quickly read by Small Pagoda, and Small Pagoda also read Night Sorrow's mysterious fate. I wonder if it will succeed. Small Pagoda kept shaking, and Wu Lingfei, who was in the space grotto heaven, said worriedly. If Night Sorrow's fate can suppress Small Pagoda's fate, he should be able to smoothly make it recognize him as its master. Master, don't worry. The female hammer immediately comforted her. At this moment, Wu Lingfei looked at the restriction-breaking bronze hammer in her hand and asked, "What exactly is a fate?" The female hammer immediately explained, "Fate is also called a fate chart. It is a map of the positions of the stars in the void when a person is born. From this, we can infer a trace of this person's luck and future achievements." Night Sorrow showed his fate to the pagoda in front of him, basically to let the pagoda see his fate. Or whether he is a person with great luck. So that's how it is. Then can you see some things in the future from my fate? Wu Lingfei asked curiously. The female hammer denied, "I can only see the general pattern. I can't see any details." So that's how it is. Wu Lingfei nodded and once again paid attention to Night Sorrow, secretly praying in her heart. At this moment, Night Sorrow was the same as Small Pagoda, clearly seeing his fate at the same time. However, he could not understand it at all. All he could see was the boundless sea of stars. However, Night Sorrow did not care, because what he cared about was the hard work of the day after tomorrow, and not the arrangement of the heavens. You are a person with great luck. I agree to recognize you as my master. But there is a condition that you need to agree to. Just as Night Sorrow was thinking about his fate, he suddenly heard a voice transmission in his mind. He said uncertainly, "You are Small Pagoda." "I am not called Small Pagoda, nor am I an imitation of the Eternal Divine Tower. It is the real Eternal Divine Tower. To be exact, it is 1/9 of the Eternal Divine Tower. It's the 7th floor. The 7th floor of the Eternal Divine Tower spoke to Night Sorrow before continuing, "I agree to recognize you as my master, but you have to promise me that you'll help me gather the other parts of the tower. The other parts of the pagoda are also of the earthly sovereign level. With my current strength, it should be very difficult for me to do so. However, if you believe me, I will definitely do it for you in the future." Night Sorrow knew that the Eternal Divine Tower was a legendary divine artifact. Gathering all of it would be extremely difficult. I don't know what happened to the other parts of the tower. However, I can sense that they are not in this eternal sovereign realm. The 7th floor of the Eternal Divine Tower continued. Is it the artifact spirit or the pagoda body that's communicating with me? How should I address you? Night Sorrow couldn't sense the artifact spirit on the 7th floor of the Eternal Divine Tower, so he wasn't sure what it was that was communicating with him. I am on the 7th floor of the Eternal Divine Tower. You can just call me Little 7. The Eternal Divine Tower doesn't have an artifact spirit, but it has a consciousness. Good. From now on, I will call you Little 7. After letting Little 7 recognize him as its master, Night Sorrow said this and then asked, Little 7. What abilities do you have? I can use it for battle, cultivation, and also to rapidly increase my strength. The complete body of the Eternal Divine Tower contains the great Tao of heaven and earth. It is a supreme divine artifact. My great Tao is incomplete, but if you cultivate in it, you will still gain a lot. Little 7 said proudly. Hearing this, Night Sorrow immediately asked, what about battle? You'll slowly get to know my combat abilities. At least for now, some of my abilities are far superior to yours. Little Seven said confidently. After saying this, it laughed to itself. I have been silent for countless years. Now that I am able to communicate with someone, this feeling is really not bad. What is your relationship with Yen Hengshi? You should have a certain relationship with him since you are here, right? Night Sorrow thought of Yen Hengshi, who he had encountered before, and immediately asked. Yen Hengshi's original body was one of the first few lives in the Eternal Supreme World. He was also one of the people who established the battle for providence. The essence of this battle for providence is not to let people fight for providence. It is to find geniuses. However, all these years, Yen Hengshi's original body has already fallen. He also did not find the inheritor he was looking for. Shao Qi explained and continued, as for my relationship with him, it's not that simple. It is because he brought me out of the fog by chance back then, and I promised to do something for him. Now, it has already passed the time limit. What was Yen Hengshi's strength at his peak? Everyone said that Supreme Longevity was the first Earth sovereign in the Eternal Supreme World. Why do I feel that Yen Hengshi was even stronger? Night Sorrow continued to ask in confusion. Little Seven's words made him think of a lot. I am not sure about this matter. But it is definitely not inferior to an Earth sovereign. After all, Yen Hengshi and the others are the ancestors of everyone in the Eternal Supreme World. Little Seven said very humanely. Okay. We will talk about these things later. Little Seven, cooperate with us to solve the problem in front of us first. At this time, Night Sorrow still wanted to ask some other things, but he felt that Mutianai had already changed. He immediately fixed his gaze on him. At this time, Mutianai was fighting with the Supreme World. And he had successfully suppressed the Supreme Tribulation body, and was about to advance to the Supreme stage. Brother Yi, now is a good opportunity. If you kill him directly, our Heavenly Realm territory will be the final champion. Seeing that Mutianai was about to become a supreme stage and his strength would increase rapidly, Master Wan Jian immediately said anxiously. At this time, he still did not know that Night Sorrow had successfully made Small Tower recognize him as its master, and was a little flustered. Night Sorrow smiled and said, We desire to be the champion, but there is no need to use a sneak attack to win. Let's wait until he advances to the supreme stage. After saying this, Night Sorrow summoned Little Seven to his hand and held it while waiting for Mutianai to advance. I have finally recovered to the supreme stage. About 7 days later, Mutianai suddenly looked up at the sky and roared. Then, he floated in the void and looked at Night Sorrow and said, Night Sorrow. You did something wrong. You should not have given me so much time. If you had attacked me before I started cultivating, our strength would have been on par. But now, you are no longer my opponent. If you had observed carefully, you would not have said that. Don't think that only your strength has increased. Night Sorrow could not help but praise Mutianya's powerful aura. He had just advanced to the supreme stage. He gave people the feeling that he was at the peak of the supreme stage, and could be said to be incomparably powerful. Just like Night Sorrow, he was a peerless genius who could fight across realms. However, even though Yi Shang was weaker than him, he wasn't afraid at all. Because Little Seven would cooperate with him in the battle. Genius memorized this site's address in 1 second. Human mobile version reading website. Chapter 30-31. What? You've obtained the replica of the Eternal Divine Tower. Looking at the small tower in Night Sorrow's hand and the empty space in the distance, Mutianai came to a realization. After thinking it through, his pupils shrank and he said in disbelief, This is impossible. This is absolutely impossible. How can you have the strength to obtain it? Nothing is impossible. The replica of the eternal divine tower in my hand is at the level of an earthly sovereign. Are you prepared to fight? Knight Sorrow looked at Mutianai and said slowly. Mutianya's body was emitting a strong fighting spirit. After becoming a sovereign, he no longer hid anything. He looked like he was ready to kill everyone. Knight Sorrow. If you still have some courage, don't use external forces and let's have a fair fight. Relying on an earthly sovereign artifact to crush your opponent is not your own ability. That's too shameful. Mutianai snorted after thinking for a while. Although he had just become a supreme being and had displayed great strength, it was impossible for him to suppress an earthly supreme being artifact. Ha! Hearing this, Knight Sorrow laughed and said, I've already given you a chance to become a sovereign. This is already a great courage. Moreover, to do a good job, one must first sharpen his tools. To be able to make an earthly sovereign artifact recognize me as its master is also my ability. What's so shameful about that? For a moment, Mutianai was speechless. At this time, Little Seven sent a voice transmission to Knight Sorrow. Knight Sorrow. The person in front of you is very special. His soul should be about the same age as Yen Hengshi. They should be from the same era. His combat strength is far superior to those of the same level. Can you tell if he's from the Eternal Sovereign Realm? Knight Sorrow immediately asked after hearing Little Seven's words. Obviously not. He should be from the fog area. There's a high probability that he's an evil person. Little Seven glanced at Mutianai and immediately made his judgment. Oh. Why is there a high chance that he's an evil person? Knight Sorrow asked in confusion. The fog in the fog area is very poisonous. After cultivating for a long time, one would naturally lose their conscience and become someone who only knew how to kill. The level of evil is much more terrifying than you can imagine. Let's put it this way. If even 1% of the creatures in the fog come out, your eternal supreme realm will be slaughtered directly. Little Seven said with certainty. What? Is the foggy area really that terrifying? Knight Sorrow was confused when he heard Little Seven's words. Based on Evil Sword Earthly Sovereign's words, one could tell that the Supreme Longevity Earthly Sovereign had found a way to become an Earthly Sovereign in the fog region. Evil Sword Earthly Sovereign had also made some achievements there. He could tell that Supreme Longevity was not an evil person, but he could not be sure about Evil Sword Earthly Sovereign. Hence, he immediately ordered, Little Seven, help me check on Evil Sword Earthly Sovereign and see if his aura in the fog area is dense. After saying that, Knight Sorrow took out Evil Sword. Little Seven checked it and said, it's far from it. If I'm not wrong, this sword has only entered the foggy area once. It left when it was less than 100 meters in. There's not much of the aura of the fog on it. Then I'm relieved. Knight Sorrow said. Then, he realized something. He immediately asked, you said that you were grateful to Yen Heng for bringing you out of the fog area. Then, are the other parts of the Eternal Divine Tower scattered in the fog area? If I'm not wrong, most of them are in there. They should have been completely corrupted by the fog. Hence, it's not easy to reconstruct the Eternal Divine Tower. Little Seven sighed like a human. We'll talk about this later. Knight Sorrow had a lot of things to sort out in his mind. However, Mutianai was still in front of him. Naturally, he would not let his imagination run wild. Instead, he looked at Mutianai and said, who are you? Or should I say, what are you? Did the replica of the Eternal Divine Tower say something to you? Hearing Knight Sorrow's words, Mutianai was stunned for a moment. Then, he said, that's right. I came from the fog area. However, you don't have the right to know what I am. Is that so? Since I don't have the right to know, I'll find out from your memories after I kill you. Knight Sorrow originally wanted to let Mutianai go. However, now that he had confirmed that he was a life form from the fog area, he naturally would not let him go and let him start a massacre in the eternal divine world. After saying that, he directly used the 33 Heavens battle secret technique. Holding the evolved golden heavenly halberd in his hand, he directly attacked Mutianai. Eternal Life Amplification Spear. This move was as powerful as ever. However, Mutianai said disdainfully, "If I was at my peak strength, I would have been able to kill you. A single strand of hair could kill you. Even the replica of the eternal divine tower in your hands is nothing." Mutianai did not know that Little Seven was a part of the eternal divine tower. With a roar, he completely unleashed the fog aura on his body. For a moment, the surrounding world was completely shrouded in fog. Night Sorrow's Eternal Life Amplification Spear, which had always worked, did not paralyze Mutianai. So this is the fog aura. It's indeed a crazy killing aura. Night Sorrow, who had wrapped himself in the power of virtue, found that the power of virtue had a very good resistance against the fog aura. He used his divine soul to investigate and found that the fog aura was indeed bloodthirsty and evil, making him feel very uncomfortable. What do you know? This is the purest source of power. Mutianai roared and controlled the fog aura to attack Night Sorrow again. He felt that as long as he could quickly control Night Sorrow, it would be equivalent to controlling Night Sorrow. Even if Night Sorrow had an earthly sovereign divine weapon, he would not be a threat to him. You're thinking too much. You want to control me? Impossible. Night Sorrow, who was using the power of virtue to resist the fog aura, roared and ordered, "Little Seven, do it. Show me your strength. Don't worry. Although he used to be powerful, he's not a threat now." Facing Mutianai, who had just become an earthly sovereign, Little Seven smiled. Like a heavy sword without a sharp edge, he enlarged the tower and smashed it directly. Not good. How can Night Sorrow resist the fog aura? Mutianai, who did not expect Night Sorrow to be able to resist the fog aura so easily, immediately cried out when he saw Little Seven coming at him. Although he was very strong, he was not strong enough to fight against Little Seven, who was an earthly sovereign. Whether it was in terms of speed or laws. At this moment, Mutianai could not dodge even if he wanted to. He was smashed by Little Seven. After being hit, Mutianai was immediately severely injured. At this moment, Little Seven transmitted his voice to Night Sorrow. "I just told you that I can use it to cultivate, to fight, and to increase your strength quickly. Now, I'll show you how to increase your strength quickly." Clan M. Chapter 30-32. Great. Little Seven. I'll wait and see. Night Sorrow said excitedly after hearing Little Seven's words. I can turn everything in time into the purest rules and essence. For example, this Mutianai in front of us. Little Seven sent a telepathic message and controlled the tower to smash out again. This time, although Mutianai used all his strength, he was still hit. Although Little Seven was only on the 7th level of the Eternal Divine Tower, it had the power of an earthly sovereign and could easily deal with him. Damn it. I, Mutianai, am always lacking in luck. Am I going to be reincarnated again? No, where there's life, there's hope. I'll just give up. Being suppressed by Little Seven, Mutianai roared in his heart. He knew that the Eternal Divine Tower was going to absorb him and turn him into rules and essence. After struggling for a while, he decided to give up and used his doppelganger hidden in the void to crush the nameplate. He gave up on this battle for Providence. Although it was his doppelganger who crushed the nameplate, his real body was also teleported out. He used a secret technique to escape. Little Seven, who originally wanted to suppress Mutianai and turn him into rules and essence to give to Night Sorrow, didn't stop him. He didn't notice the doppelganger hidden in the void while guarding against Mutianai's real body. Therefore, he didn't stop him. He used his doppelganger to crush the nameplate. A cunning rabbit has 3 burrows. It's normal that we can't guard against him. Yi Shang comforted little Seven before he continued, however, we must find out who he is in the future. We can't let him bring disaster to the eternal sovereign world. Yes. Every creature in the foggy area that appears in the eternal sovereign world needs to be destroyed as soon as possible. Otherwise, he can cause a lot of chaos. Little Seven said solemnly. Even for a divine artifact of the earthly sovereign level, the foggy area was a terrifying place to be. Yes. We have to find a way to deal with him. But Mu Tianai is hiding in the strongest territory, Tian Shao territory. He will definitely be protected. With our strength, it's very difficult to deal with him. Night Sorrow nodded and said in a serious tone. The Heavenly Owl territory has always been one of the 4 great holy lands in the eternal supreme world. This is indeed a difficult task. Little Seven agreed, then continued, but now that you've suppressed him once, you've already won. In the future, he would definitely suppress it. This was luck. You just need to focus on increasing your strength. Speaking of increasing your strength, you have an opportunity right in front of you. After all, you are already the champion of this year's Battle of Providence. That's right. Our territory in the God realm is the champion. It was impossible for Night Sorrow to not be happy about leading the celestial realm to the championship, but he was still affected by Mutianya's incident. He didn't show too much excitement. As for the 10,000 Sword sect, that was a completely different story. He excitedly transmitted his voice to Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow, our heavenly realm has won the championship. Is this for real? Am I dreaming? Before participating in the Battle of Providence, the 10,000 Sword sect thought that it would be good enough if the celestial realm could win the 1,000th place. They didn't expect that under the leadership of Night Sorrow, they would climb to the top step by step. He felt that he could die at night if he heard the truth in the morning. Even if he died now, it would be worth it. It's real. All of this is real. We can drink and celebrate. Xiao Tianxian, who had always been mature, also laughed heartily. It was the first time that the celestial realm had won the championship. As a participant, how could he not be excited? It's worth it. At this moment, I feel that everything I've done is worth it. Yuan Fengshue's eyes were red, and she said with tears in her eyes. In order to become the champion this time, Night Sorrow and everyone else had sacrificed too much. To cultivators, not being able to use their divine essence force and divine soul power for 30,000 years was even greater than the destruction of their divine soul. At this moment, Night Sorrow said, "Thank you all for your efforts along the way. It's you who led us to glory. Without you, it would be difficult for us to enter the top 1,000. Murong Zhenlu said with emotion. Like the 10,000 Sword sect, he still felt that everything was a dream. While they were celebrating, only Feng Wuji looked uncomfortable. There was even a hint of a playful smile on his face. Everyone else's faces were dark. They still couldn't accept that the celestial realm had won the championship. At first, Moon Feather Earthly Supremacy's face had darkened. However, after thinking about it for a bit, he smiled. He said, "I wonder what kind of reward this Yi Chang can get for me." In his heart, Night Sorrow was already a fish on the chopping board. He was ready to kill Night Sorrow and take the treasure. At this moment, the scene that they had been watching suddenly stopped. Lunar Feather Earth Sovereign frowned and said, "What's going on?" Lunar Feather Earth Sovereign, this might be Night Sorrow from the celestial realm receiving the special reward for being the champion. The scene inside is covered by something. Dao Wui on the side speculated. In fact, after Yan Hengsher's shadow appeared, Little Seven helped Night Sorrow cover everything. After all, it was the core of the competition field. Hee hee, congratulations to all of you for reaching the end and becoming the final champion. After Yen Hingsher's shadow appeared, he congratulated Knight Sorrow with a smile. Senior. Knight Sorrow summoned the others from the celestial realm. Everyone called out to him together and didn't say anything. Good. Good. Every one of you is very righteous. A group of good seedlings has appeared in the celestial realm. In the future, they will definitely stir up the stagnant pool of the eternal supreme world. They will change the situation. Yen Hingsher glanced at everyone and praised. Senior, you flatter me. Knight Sorrow immediately said humbly. The others all smiled bitterly. Now, they couldn't even use their divine origin energy and divine soul power. How could they stir up the situation? At this time, Yen Hingsher smiled and said, don't be discouraged. Even if you lose your divine origin energy and divine soul power. As long as your original heart doesn't change, you will recover one day. Flowers have a day to bloom again, so do you. Thank you for your comfort, Senior. Xiao Tianxian cupped his fists and bowed to Yen Hingsher. The others from the Myriad Sword sect also said some words of gratitude. At this time, Yen Hingsher continued, after the pleasantries, it's time to get to the point. I have two things to say. One is a good thing, the other is a bad thing. Which one do you want to hear first? Let's taste bitter first. Let's listen to the bad one first. After everyone in the celestial realm discussed for a while, Knight Sorrow said. The others looked at Yen Hingsher with a solemn expression. Good. Yen Hingsher said a good thing and then sighed softly. He looked at Knight Sorrow and said, the bad thing is that you used the external force of the Eternal Divine Tower in the final battle and weren't chosen as the inheritor. Genius remembered this site's address in a second. Human mobile version reading website. Chapter 30-33. I wasn't chosen as the inheritor. That's nothing. After all, I already have my own Tao. After listening to Yen Hingsher's phantom, Knight Sorrow felt that this matter was nothing, it was not a bad thing. This is just part of this matter. Then, Yen Hingsher's phantom continued, the other thing is according to my original plan. The great calamity of the eternal supreme world that occurs once in a billion years is about to come again. Without the inheritance of my original body, it will be difficult for you to resist it. Since Senior knows that without your inheritance, we can't resist the great calamity, why do you have to leave the inheritance? Knight Sorrow was puzzled, he felt that Yen Hingsher's words were very contradictory. Alas! My original body's inheritance is the rule set by my original body. The rule is dead, if you don't meet the conditions, he won't pass it down. I can't control this matter. Speaking of which, I'm just a housekeeper. Yen Hingsher's phantom said helplessly. In his opinion, Knight Sorrow was the most suitable successor, but there was a rule in advance, Knight Sorrow couldn't get the inheritance. As for the others in the territory of the divine realm, they were even less qualified to get it. Maybe it's time and fate. Since we can't get it, in the face of the great calamity that Senior mentioned, we can only think of a way ourselves. Knight Sorrow said, and then asked doubtfully, as for what kind of calamity it is, I hope Senior can tell me. I don't know what it is exactly. But it must be related to the fog area. Only the creatures in the fog area can threaten the life and death of the eternal supreme world. Yen Hingsher's phantom speculated. Senior, may I ask where the other seniors who appeared in your era are now? Are they still alive? Thinking of the birth of Yen Hingsher, Knight Sorrow asked curiously. He didn't seem to be the only life that appeared at that time. I don't know where I came from and how I became sentient. But I know that there were a total of 5 lives at that time. Yen Hingsher recalled for a moment and continued, 2 of them have been staying and guarding the eternal supreme world. They are me and Yen. As for the other three, they all entered the fog area and completely became bloodthirsty demons. The fall of my original body and Yan's sleep are directly related to them. Back then, a great battle took place between us. So something like this had happened before. Did the three existences in the foggy area perish back then? Night Sorrow asked. Sigh. If I remember correctly, although they were all heavily injured back then, none of them died. Perhaps he had already recovered after all these years. Who knows when they will make a comeback? Yen Hingsher's shadow said helplessly. This is indeed a bad thing. Senior, may I ask what the strength of those three existences are? Earth Sovereign. Upon hearing this, Night Sorrow's heart was instantly covered with a layer of shadow. He was worried that the darkened ancient existences would launch an attack on the eternal sovereign realm. Their strength is above the level of an earthly sovereign. When my original body was alive, there was no such thing as how one's realm was calculated. They simply called it the extreme realm. It meant the limit of the supreme being level. However, none of them have surpassed the level of supremacy. Yen Hingsher's shadow said slowly. Is it equivalent to being one level higher than an Earth Sovereign? Now that there are so many Earth Sovereigns in the Eternal Sovereign Realm, they might be able to resist. Before Night Sorrow could speak, Wan Jianzong said in relief. At this time, Yen Hingsher's shadow continued, it seems that above the Earth Sovereign, there is a Heavenly Sovereign, and then the Supreme Extreme Realm. Hearing this, Wan Jianzong was immediately speechless. While Wan Jianzong was speechless, Yen Hingsher continued, the three of them have several Heavenly Sovereigns under them. Send any one of them, and no one in the Eternal Sovereign Realm can resist them. Speaking of which, the cultivators of the Eternal Sovereign Realm in front of us are only born after this realm was cut off. In the battle back then, we lost miserably. All the experts were destroyed. Therefore, many people think that Supreme Longevity is the first Earth Sovereign of the Eternal Sovereign Realm. What? So that's how it is. When Yen Hingsher said this, Night Sorrow and the rest of the people in the Heavenly Realm all shuddered. The truth in front of them was much crueler than they had imagined. The difference in strength between the Eternal Sovereign Realm and the creatures in the fog was like heaven and earth. After thinking for a while, Night Sorrow, who had a headache, asked doubtfully, Senior, then there's nothing we can do but wait to be harvested. The last hope of the Eternal Paragon Realm is Yen, who is in deep slumber. As long as she can wake up, there is still a glimmer of hope for the Eternal Sovereign Realm. In addition, it depends on your efforts. Yen Hingsher was very helpless. In the battle back then, his original body had been killed. Now, he wanted to help, but he didn't have the ability to do so. Where can we find Senior Yen? The Eternal Sovereign Realm's greatest reliance at the moment was the Supreme Extreme Realm's Yen. Night Sorrow asked for her location. Hearing this, Yen Hingsher's shadow smiled and said, even those three can't find her, naturally we can't find her. But I believe that when the Eternal Sovereign Realm is in a life and death situation, she will definitely appear. Alright. It seems that before that, we can only rely on our own efforts. Night Sorrow nodded and secretly made up his mind to quickly improve his strength. Strive to advance to the Supreme Realm as soon as possible, and then strive to become an Earth Supreme. He felt that as long as he kept improving his strength, there would always be a glimmer of hope. Okay. That's all for the bad news. Next, we should talk about the good news. The good news is that although you haven't opened the inheritance, you have received additional rewards. That is to say, in addition to the normal rewards you received in the square after the battle. Right now, I can give you other rewards. Yen Hingsher saw that the atmosphere was a little depressed and opened his mouth to talk about the rewards. What kind of rewards can we get? Hearing Yen Hingsher's words, Night Sorrow immediately asked. At present, he and everyone in the Eternal Sovereign Realm needed to quickly improve their strength. You have two options. First, Night Sorrow, you advance to the Supreme Realm and reach the half-step Earth Supreme Realm. Second, all of them recover and reach the peak of the Sovereign Realm, which is the half-step Supreme Realm. Yan Hengshi said slowly. This is really a good thing. I choose to let all of them recover. Night Sorrow didn't hesitate and immediately made his choice. Hearing this, Xiao Tianxian immediately said, No. We choose to let Night Sorrow advance to the half-step Earth Supreme Realm. Night Sorrow, don't refuse. Letting you become an Earth Supreme is a good thing for both the realm of the gods and the Eternal Sovereign Realm. Genius remembered this site's address in a second. Human mobile version reading website. Chapter 30-34. That's right, Brother Yi. Just agree to it. I feel that one day, we will have to rely on you to resist those terrifying creatures in the fog. Your strength increasing quickly is a good thing for everyone. Thousand Sword Sect also spoke up. That's right. Night Sorrow. You are the hope of all of us. Accept Senior Yan Hengshi's reward. Murong Zizhu also felt that it was more appropriate for Night Sorrow to accept this reward. Wu Lingfei did not speak, but her thoughts were the same as Xiao Tianxian, Thousand Sword Sect, and others. However, because she was too close to Night Sorrow, it was not appropriate for her to say this, so she did not speak. Subsequently, the rest of the people in the heavenly realm all spoke up and agreed with Xiao Tianxian. Since so many people agree to leave the reward to Night Sorrow, then I will help him advance his strength. After so many people expressed their opinions, Yan Hengshi immediately made a decision. However, at this time, Night Sorrow said with a serious expression, Everyone, I hope you can understand one thing. That is, I, Night Sorrow, have my own Tao. My Tao is to rise in battle, not to accept gifts like this. If I accept this gift, I'm afraid my Tao heart will be unstable. You guys should recover in peace. Senior, help them recover, Night Sorrow is extremely grateful. In the future, I will wholeheartedly protect the safety of the Eternal Supreme Realm. Hee hee. Since you have said so much, then I know what to do. This time, Yan Hengshi's shadow did not continue to say anything, and directly summoned endless energy from this small world. After this energy appeared, it was divided into equal portions and entered the bodies of Xiao Tianxian and the 10,000 Sword Sect members. Not long after, they were completely recovered, and their strength was all promoted to half-step supreme, the same realm as Night Sorrow. Hee hee. How do you guys feel? Seeing that everyone in the heavenly realm had recovered, Night Sorrow asked with concern. We have recovered. Not only have we completely recovered, but our strength has also increased. Thousand Sword Sect, who was originally half-step supreme, said. Even for him, his strength had increased. As for the others, there was no need to even mention them. Wu Lingfei and the others had seen a qualitative increase in their strength. Very good. Not only had everyone recovered their strength, but they had also improved to a certain extent. I didn't win the championship for nothing. Night Sorrow said with relief when he saw that everyone had recovered. At this time, the chaotic heavenly crystal beast said speechlessly, I also contributed, but I didn't get anything. When we get out of here, I'll share some of the rewards with you. Night Sorrow said speechlessly. Hearing this, the originally restless chaotic heavenly crystal beast felt a little better. At this time, Yan Hengshi's shadow looked fainter and fainter. He looked at Night Sorrow and said, If nothing unexpected happens, this will be the last battle for Providence because I can't hold on any longer. Soon, everything here, including the inheritance of my original body, was transported to the boundless void and began to drift endlessly. Whoever is fated to see it will have the opportunity. Senior. Hearing this, Night Sorrow immediately understood that Yen Hengsher's shadow was about to disappear. He was a little sad. I'm about to dissipate, and this place will soon fall. Everyone, take care. By the way, including my other shadows, if anyone tells you that they will establish an organization to protect the Eternal Supreme Realm, don't believe them. If you want to protect the Eternal Supreme Realm, you can only rely on the efforts of everyone in the Eternal Supreme Realm. Yen Hengsher said again when he was about to dissipate. Yes, Night Sorrow has learned. Night Sorrow moved towards Yen Hengsher's position. Then, the small world they were in collapsed in an instant. He and the others of the Heavenly Realm territory all appeared in the square of the battle for Providence. As soon as Night Sorrow's figure appeared, he was locked onto by Moonfeather Earth's Sovereign. After locking onto Night Sorrow's aura, Moonfeather Earth's Sovereign did not make a move for the time being. Instead, she smiled and continued, "The champion has already appeared. What are you waiting for? Start the awards." But Yuling Supreme has already fallen. We don't have the authority to activate the rewards. Dao Wui immediately replied. Yuling has already been killed. The authority will naturally fall to someone else. You can try and see who can activate the rewards this year. Moonfeather Earth's Sovereign continued. Her intention was clear. She wanted Night Sorrow to get the champion's reward, and then the reward for the person who died. I've already been locked onto by that earthly sovereign. As soon as I move, he will attack. All of you, enter Brother Zhao's space cave. If he attacks me, you will immediately teleport back to the Heavenly Realm territory. Damn it. The Eternal Supreme Realm is about to be destroyed. Some people are still bullying us in the Heavenly Realm territory. We will all stay and help Night Sorrow. Seeing Moonfeather Earth's Sovereign's face, Master Wan Jian cursed unhappily. Hearing this, Night Sorrow immediately advised, don't be impulsive. If you stay, it will affect my energy. Who knows, I might be able to escape alive if I face the earthly sovereign alone. He had completely sensed Moonfeather Earth's Sovereign's murderous intent and knew the difference in strength between them. Moreover, Yen Hengsher had said that the energy here had been exhausted. That meant that even if Moonfeather Earth's Sovereign attacked him in front of everyone, he would not be punished. The only thing he could rely on was Little Seven. Little Seven was an earthly sovereign. In front of an earthly sovereign, he would not be able to escape. However, after communicating with Little Seven, Night Sorrow's answer was that it was uncertain. Therefore, everything was unknown. Everyone, let's go. Enter Brother Zhao's space cave. At this moment, Wu Lingfei glanced at Yi Shang and said. After that, she sent a voice transmission to Night Sorrow. We will wait for your return. I believe that with Little Seven's help, even an earthly sovereign will not be able to do anything to you. Yes. I can still rely on Little Seven to help me escape. Night Sorrow said casually. Then, he took Little Seven out of the space cave and put it in his sleeve. He was ready to fight at any time. While Night Sorrow was briefing the people in the Deity World territory, the sovereigns present went to open the champion's reward one after another. After trying, Dao Wui of the Dao World territory opened the champion's reward. Dao Wui's eyes lit up the moment he opened the champion's reward box. What he saw were pieces of earthly sovereign materials, as well as earthly sovereign laws and essences. In addition, there was also a white jade pendant. This white jade pendant was slightly flawed and looked very gentle. However, this was not the main point. The main point was that its aura was not inferior to that of an earthly sovereign. It was obviously an earthly sovereign treasure. Great! This is good stuff. Upon seeing this white jade pendant, Moonfeather Earth's Sovereign's eyes lit up immediately. Clan M. Chapter 30-35. That old man is looking at the jade pendant greedily, as if he's admiring something that belongs to him. Night Sorrow, you must be careful. Xiao Tianxian, who had already sent everyone into the space cave, saw the greedy look on Moonfeather Earthly Sovereign's face and immediately reminded him. When Night Sorrow heard this, he looked at Xiao Tianxian and said, Brother Xiao, I will help you get your rewards. Quickly bring everyone back to the realm of the gods. This is not a place to stay for long. Moonfeather Earthly Sovereign was eager to go. Feng Wuji was next to him. Although he was expressionless, no one knew what he was thinking. Night Sorrow had been guarding against him. All right. Yi Shang, you must remember to be careful. We will wait for your return in the realm of the gods. Xiao Tianxian said helplessly as he patted Night Sorrow's shoulder. He and the others in the realm of the gods were helpless in the face of the current situation. Don't worry. No matter how difficult the road ahead is, I will return to the realm of the gods in one piece. Everyone, take care. Night Sorrow said as he looked at the rewards that would tempt even the earthly sovereigns. At this time, he realized that Moonfeather Earthly Sovereign was targeting him more and more brazenly. After targeting Night Sorrow, Moonfeather Earthly Sovereign began to urge Dao Wui and the others to quickly give out the rewards. After he gave the order, Dao Wui and the others began to give out the rewards. When it came to the top 32 rewards, the number of people was better. When it came to the top 8, many people had been killed and many territories had been wiped out. Only the earthly sovereigns could receive the rewards on behalf of the participants. As for the Jiuxian territory, it was even worse. Although they had won the third place, there were no earthly sovereigns present. The one who went up was Feng Wuji. Feng Wuji, who went up to receive the reward for the third place, had a playful look on his face. No one could tell if he was happy or angry. When it came to the second place, Mu Tianai walked up to the podium in front of the crowd. He took his reward from Dao Wui's hands. At the same time, he looked at Yi Shang and smiled at him. That smile contained a hint of provocation. I don't know what creature you are. But since you came from the fog region, I will definitely destroy you. No matter where you hide. Night Sorrow said sternly to Mu Tianai through voice transmission. Haha. You can announce my identity to the public and see if anyone here believes you. Mu Tianai provoked indifferently. He knew very well that Night Sorrow was from the realm of the gods and was basically an enemy of the entire world. Even if he told them about what happened in the fog, no one would believe him. I alone am enough to deal with a small fry like you. Night Sorrow said disdainfully to Mu Tianai. At this moment, Mu Tianai smiled and continued, then let's wait and see. The next time we meet, I will kill you with my own hands. Night Sorrow said coldly. At the same time, he began to think of a way to deal with Mu Tianai. Just as Mu Tianai thought, at this moment, no matter what Night Sorrow said, no one would believe him and stand on his side. As for the fact that the creatures in the fog would invade, no one would believe it. Therefore, he was not in the mood to talk about it. While Night Sorrow and Mu Tianai were talking through voice transmission, Xiao Tianxian led the people from the realm of the gods and successfully left through the teleportation portal. After watching them leave, Night Sorrow let out a sigh of relief. At this moment, Mu Tianai received his reward and slowly walked down the stage. Dao Wui said, the winner of this battle of providence is the realm of the gods. People of the realm of the gods, come up and receive your reward. You seem to have forgotten to say, please. Dao Wui's tone was filled with disdain. It was as if he looked down on the realm of the gods. Night Sorrow, who had flown up the stage, harumphed coldly. Do I need to say, please, to someone like you? Have you ever seen someone say, please, to a chicken, a duck, or a goose? What a joke. Dao Wui looked at Night Sorrow with a fake smile. If you have the mood to care about these things, why don't you think about how you can leave here alive? This has nothing to do with you. Give me my reward. Naturally, Yi Shang knew that Moonfeather Earthly Sovereign would make a move on him after the award ceremony. He was already thinking of a way to deal with it. With the pair of forbidden breaking hammers left behind by Little Seven and Wu Lingfei, he was not worried that he would be trapped. After all, there was still the Earthly Supreme Jade Pendant in front of him. Who knows, it might be able to play a good role as well. Hee, you will soon know whose reward these are. Dao Wui sneered and pointed at the treasure chest that was filled with rewards. Take them yourself. Keep them warm. After all, they won't be yours in a while. You don't have to worry about that. Night Sorrow put away the treasure chest in front of him and immediately used the life chart matching technique to make the jade pendant recognize him as its master. With the experience he had with Little Seven, he was able to make the jade pendant recognize him as its master very quickly this time. A moment later, the jade pendant, which had a weapon spirit, sent a voice transmission to Night Sorrow. I am willing to accept you as my master. Oh. So straightforward. No conditions? Night Sorrow asked curiously. When Little Seven had recognized him as its master, he had mentioned some conditions. Master's life providence is rarely seen in billions of years. To be able to follow by Master's side is already my greatest fortune. The jade pendant said respectfully. All right. In the future, I will not treat you unfairly. Night Sorrow promised. He then asked, White Jade, what can you do? There is a problem ahead of us. We have been targeted by at least one Earthly Supreme. My ability is to nourish the mind. It is very beneficial for cultivation, but I am not very good at fighting. It can be used against those below the Earthly Supreme level, but it is not very effective against Earthly Supremes. White Jade said weakly. Hearing this, Night Sorrow suddenly understood why White Jade had recognized him as its master so easily. It turned out that among the Earthly Supremes, it was a very useless existence. However, it was not bad for it to nourish the mind. Thinking of this, Night Sorrow said, Strength is a source of support. It can be used to increase the efficiency of cultivation. It is very useful. You don't have to feel inferior. Let me and Little Seven handle this matter. Come, Little Seven, get to know each other. Ho ho ho, Night Sorrow. The Moon Shadow Estate would like to invite you, the new champion, to our estate as a guest. What do you think? While Little Seven and White Jade were talking, Moonfeather Earthly Supreme's voice suddenly rang out. Ho ho ho, invite me to the Moon Shadow Estate. Thank you, but I am not interested. Hearing Moonfeather Earthly Supreme's words, Night Sorrow rejected the invitation without hesitation. Everyone knew that Moonfeather Earthly Supreme was a Sima Zhao. Only a fool would accept his invitation. Night Sorrow. I have given you some face. Why don't you know how to cherish it? After Night Sorrow finished speaking, Moonfeather Earthly Supreme laughed coldly and continued, Today, you have to go, even if you don't want to. Chapter 30-36. Oh. You are an Earthly Sovereign. Are you going to be so shameless as to attack a junior? Yi Shang asked fearlessly in the face of Moonfeather Earthly Supremacy. He knew that no one in the realm of the gods behind him could fight against an Earthly Sovereign. He could only rely on himself. While he was questioning you Earthly Sovereign, Night Sorrow sent a message to Little Seven and the Restriction-Breaking Hammer. Little Seven and the Restriction-Breaking Hammer, let's get ready to escape. Both of you cooperate well later. As for the White Jade, it was used to nourish the mind, so he did not take it into consideration. Yes. Okay. The Restriction-Breaking Hammer and Little Seven replied at the same time. While Night Sorrow, the Restriction-Breaking Hammer, and Little Seven were planning their escape, a sinister smile appeared on you Earthly Sovereign's face. Moonfeather Earthly Sovereign smiled viciously and said, "We have already shed all pretense of cordiality with the god world. This time won't make a difference. Junior, prepare to die." After saying this, Yu Earthly Sovereign flew into the air and shot a beam of energy at Night Sorrow. This beam of energy was not used to attack Night Sorrow, but to bind him. After the energy was shot, Night Sorrow immediately shouted, "Little Seven, take me away." Okay. When Little Seven heard this, he immediately put Night Sorrow and the restriction-breaking hammer into the tower. He was preparing to escape. Hee hee. You want to escape in front of me? If I did not have a way to restrain you, I would have set up an array. Yu Earthly Sovereign saw that Little Seven was about to escape with Night Sorrow. She immediately took out a cobweb-like magical artifact from her space device. After this magical artifact was thrown out, it immediately enveloped Little Seven. It slowly tightened and wrapped around him. This is an Earthly Sovereign artifact. He has an Earthly Sovereign artifact on him. Little Seven, who was trapped, immediately shouted. Generally speaking, Earthly Sovereign artifacts were very rare. Who would have thought that Yu would have one on her? Moreover, it was such a huge net that could cover the sky. Restriction-breaking hammers, it's time for you to attack. Yishan did not panic when he was trapped by the net that covered the sky. Instead, he commanded the restriction-breaking hammer to try and break free. Let's try. However, the chances of breaking through were not high. After all, this is an Earthly Sovereign artifact, and we are no longer at our peak strength. The male hammer said as it cooperated with the female hammer and attacked the Moonlight Eclipse net of Moonlight Earthly Sovereign. After being attacked by them, the Moonlight Shrouding net immediately began to shrink even more violently. It looked like it was going to crush the small pagoda. Moonfeather Earthly Sovereign laughed and said, "Night Sorrow, oh Night Sorrow. Your strength isn't much, but the treasures you have on you are quite a few. It's exactly what I want. In the future, on this day every year, I will have my disciples burn some paper money for you. Don't worry, even if I die today. Even if I die today, I will make all the artifacts on me explode and leave nothing for you." Night Sorrow roared as he cooperated with the restriction-breaking hammer and Little Seven to attack the Moonlight Shrouding net. Under their continuous attacks, the Moonlight Shrouding net could not hold on any longer. Indeed, they are all good stuff. Haha. Especially this pair of hammers. They are not Earthly Sovereign artifacts, but they can break some of the seals on them. Seeing that Night Sorrow was about to cooperate with Little Seven and the restriction-breaking hammer to break the Moonlight Shrouding net suppression, Moonlight Shrouding net was about to break free. Moonfeather Earthly Sovereign nodded her head in satisfaction. Then, she immediately attacked and cooperated with the Moonlight Shrouding net to completely suppress Little Seven. Lord Moonfeather. These restriction-breaking hammers belong to the Burning Sky territory. Please return them to the Burning Sky territory after you get them. Night Sorrow could not escape from Moonfeather Earthly Sovereign. The Burning Sky territory's sovereign, Fenyuha, immediately spoke. He wanted the restriction-breaking hammers back. Hearing this, Moonfeather Earthly Sovereign sneered and said, "These hammers belong to the Burning Sky territory, but Night Sorrow got them and made them recognize him as their master. They belong to Night Sorrow. Now, they belong to me. What does this have to do with the Burning Sky territory? This. Moonfeather Earthly Sovereign, please consider the harmonious relationship between our territories." Fenyuha of the Burning Sky territory continued. The Burning Sky territory's strength was slightly weaker than the Moon Shadow territories, but not by much. Therefore, he was not very afraid of Moonfeather Earthly Sovereign. "If you spout any more nonsense, I will kill you." After Fenyuha finished speaking, Moonfeather Earthly Sovereign sneered and said with a murderous aura, After being ridiculed like this, Fenyuha could not say anything no matter how much he had in his heart. At this moment, he thought for a moment and looked at Feng Wuji. Wuji, earthly sovereign, please help the Burning Sky territory. Oh. Help the Burning Sky territory. On what basis? Feng Wuji, who had not spoken or made any movements, immediately asked with a smile when he heard Fenyuha's words. This. My Burning Sky territory is willing to give the restriction-breaking hammer to you. Fenyuha thought for a moment and said. Fenyuha. Do you take me for a fool? Using me as a spear. Just based on what you said, you no longer have the right to continue living. A cold smile appeared on Feng Wuji's face. He directly attacked and killed Fenyuha with a palm. At the same time, the murderous aura on his body rose. He looked at Moonfeather, earthly sovereign, and said, Moonfeather, you are looking down on me too much. Ha! Brother Wuji, what do you mean by that? My Moon Shadow territory and Night Sorrow are mortal enemies. Isn't it normal for me to attack him? Moonfeather, earthly sovereign, looked at Feng Wuji with a cold expression. He had an earthly sovereign artifact in his hand, so he was not too afraid of Feng Wuji. Therefore, he did not inform Feng Wuji when he attacked. If we are talking about enmity, does my 9 profound territory not have enmity with Night Sorrow? Feng Wuji asked coldly. The murderous aura on his body did not decrease, but increased instead. Sensing the dense murderous aura on Feng Wuji, Moonfeather, earthly sovereign, coldly asked, Aha! Feng Wuji, have you decided to shed all pretense of cordiality with me? Have you come to fight for Night Sorrow's treasures? When they had just arrived, Moonfeather, earthly sovereign, had still given Feng Wuji some face. Now, they had completely shed all pretense of cordiality. At this moment, Feng Wuji swept his gaze across the crowd and said, Those who have nothing to do with this, please leave. When he said this, those who were watching did not dare to stay any longer. Everyone knew that Feng Wuji was going to start a war with Moonfeather, earthly sovereign. If the 2 earthly sovereigns were to fight, the consequences would be unimaginable. Therefore, no one dared to stay any longer. One after another, they left using the teleportation array. They returned to their territories and reported to their superiors. Feng Wuji, don't think that you are invincible just because you are from the 4 great saint lands. Today, I will kill you. Moonfeather, earthly sovereign, looked viciously at Feng Wuji and threw out a punch at him. This punch was completely different from the one that had tied up Night Sorrow. The rules and power that it contained were extremely terrifying. Clan. Chapter 30-37. After witnessing Moonfeather, earthly sovereign's move, Night Sorrow realized the gap between him and an earthly sovereign. At the same time, he ordered Little Seven and the restriction-breaking hammer to think of a way to break the array. They wanted to take advantage of the battle between Moonfeather, earthly sovereign, and Feng Wuji to find a way to escape. The moonlight shrouding net had lost the direct control of Moonfeather, earthly sovereign, and its power was obviously weaker. However, in the next moment, something happened that made Night Sorrow completely dumbfounded. After Moonfeather, earthly sovereign, had made a probing attack, Feng Wuji, who had suddenly struck out, had turned Moonfeather, earthly sovereign, into nothingness. In an instant, the moonlight shrouding net had completely lost control. Damn! He killed an earthly sovereign with one move. This is a ruthless person. He is definitely not an earthly sovereign. When the moonlight shrouding net had lost control, Little Seven immediately realized that Moonfeather, earthly sovereign's spiritual soul had been destroyed. The elites of the 4 great sanctuaries are indeed incomparable to ordinary territories. Seeing that Feng Wuji had killed Moonfeather, earthly sovereign, with one move, Night Sorrow suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. In the hands of Moonfeather, earthly sovereign, they could not escape. In the face of such a powerful Feng Wuji, there was even less of a chance. Master. What should we do? Should we really self-destruct? Why don't we seek refuge with this elite? Bai Yu, who had been silent all this while, immediately tried to persuade Night Sorrow when she saw how powerful Feng Wuji was. I don't think you should be called Bai Yu. You should be called Nephrite. Hearing Bai Yu's words, Little Seven immediately said with disdain. Hee, Nephrite is a good name. At this moment Feng Wuji, who had already retracted his murderous aura, smiled. As for Yi Shang, he saw a trace of complicated emotions in Feng Wuji's eyes. Oh. What's going on? Night Sorrow remembered that Feng Wuji had started to target him when the Battle of Providence had just begun. He did not know why he had such a complicated look in his eyes now. Night Sorrow. Come out and talk. Feng Wuji looked at Little Seven and said. What are you trying to say? Night Sorrow asked coldly after coming out of the pagoda. Facing such a powerful Feng Wuji, he would not be able to escape no matter what. He no longer had any thoughts of escaping. Now, he was thinking about how to let Little Seven, White Jade, and the restriction-breaking hammer escape. He did not want them to self-destruct, but he also did not want them to fall into Feng Wuji's hands. What I want to say is that you don't have to think too much. You don't need to do that when you're facing me. Feng Wuji had an amiable smile on his face. This kind of smile was different from the cold indifference he showed to others. Seeing the friendly smile on Feng Wuji's face, Night Sorrow was puzzled. He had no idea why Feng Wuji, who had a grudge against the Firmament territory, would treat him in such a manner. At this time, Feng Wuji smiled and said, Next, I will tell you a secret, but you cannot tell anyone about it, including the people of the God Realm's territory. Alright, go ahead. Yi Shang was at a complete loss. He didn't know what Feng Wuji was trying to do, so he could only reply in agreement. Back then, I was ambushed by a spy from the Firmament territory in the Supreme Space and was poisoned by a strange poison that was difficult to cure. Then, I was surrounded by dozens of Supremes. At that time, there were at least 800 Supremes, if not 1,000. However, I did not die. Instead, I successfully possessed Feng Wuji in the chaotic battle. At this point, you should know who I am, right? After Feng Wuji finished speaking, his face immediately changed into a scholarly look. Night Sorrow took a closer look, and his eyes instantly moistened. The person in front of him was none other than Supreme Longevity. Senior Longevity. I didn't expect you to survive and possess Feng Wuji. After Supreme Longevity recovered his appearance, he also completely recovered his original aura. This aura was exactly the same as the image that the Horned Supreme summoned. Sigh. If not for that battle back then, I might not have been stuck at the Sky Supreme level for the rest of my life. Feng Wuji's body is not talented enough. It can't advance any further. Supreme Longevity sighed and continued, the future of the firmament and the eternal supreme world still rests on your shoulders. I lost the chance to advance to the supreme realm, but you have it. Senior, you flatter me. Night Sorrow said humbly. Then, he asked, Senior Changxing, is there no other way? Can you take over someone else's body? I can possess someone else, but I can't find a suitable body at the moment. There are simply too few bodies in the world that can advance to the supreme realm. Even among the 4 sacred grounds, it's hard to find one. You're the only one in all these years. Supreme Longevity sighed. Mu Tianya's body can't do it either. He should be from the fog region. Night Sorrow asked curiously. Mu Tianyi was ultimately a ticking time bomb. He would not be happy if he did not get rid of him. You mean him? He's just trash. At most, he can advance to the Earth's supreme level. Supreme Longevity pulled Mu Tianyi out of the space grotto. Before the battle with you earthly sovereign, Sovereign Chongqing had dispersed the crowd. However, he had secretly taken control of Mu Tianai and did not give him a chance to escape. The moment he was thrown to the ground, Mu Tianai looked at Supreme Longevity and said, "Supreme Longevity, I didn't expect you to be so scheming. You've been hiding under the identity of Feng Wuji. Many territories have attacked the firmament territory, but you didn't help at all. You evil spirit, do you really think that you're from Tianshao territory? Know your place. You're just an evil spirit from the fog region. Who are you to meddle in the affairs of the firmament territory?" Supreme Chongqing said disdainfully before crushing Mu Tianai into pieces. Then, he threw the space grotto to Night Sorrow and said, "All these years, I've been helping the firmament territory secretly, but I've never shown myself. Because there are spies in the firmament territory, and there's more than one. When you return to the firmament territory in the future, you must be careful. Now, I can confirm that the spy is the governor of the firmament city. But I've already killed him." "What? The governor of the firmament city is a spy?" Hearing this, Night Sorrow was shocked. So the governor had already been killed. No wonder no one could find him. Don't be surprised. My judgment won't be wrong. He was the one who poisoned me back then. If not for him, no one else could have poisoned me so easily. Supreme Longevity said with a sigh. The governor of the firmament territory was the deputy governor of the firmament territory. He was also Supreme Longevity's most trusted person. It was also him who poisoned Supreme Longevity. However, after he poisoned Supreme Longevity, he did not steal Supreme Longevity's body's laws and essence. He did not advance to the Earth's supreme level. Under his leadership, the firmament territory gradually declined to the state it was today. Genius memorized this site's address. Human mobile version reading website. Chapter 3038. Senior Longevity. The two Vice City Lords of the God World are also missing. They said they went to look for the City Lords. Are they also? Night Sorrow asked. He didn't finish his sentence. They aren't traitors, but they are juniors. They don't know what happened back then. However, they are trapped in a secret realm in the supreme space. Their situation isn't good. They need you to rescue them. Supreme Longevity said slowly after hearing Night Sorrow's words. Oh. Where are the two Vice City Lords trapped? Night Sorrow asked curiously. Now that the God World had lost its backbone, Supreme Longevity shouldn't be exposed even though he had appeared. Night Sorrow felt that if he could rescue the two Vice City Lords, the God World's strength would definitely increase. In addition, the God World had won the battle for Providence. They didn't have to worry about Providence for the time being. If they didn't go to a public place like the Supreme Space, they could rest and recuperate for many years. The secret realm they are trapped in is called the Big and Small Grotto Heavens. It's a chain trap array. However, there are good opportunities inside. If you can get the resources inside, you should be able to break through to the supreme level. Supreme Longevity continued, however, their lives aren't in danger now. Let's think about other things first. Senior Longevity, please speak. Night Sorrow looked at him. Toward someone like Longqing Supreme who had made great contributions to the divine realm, he held reverence in his heart. This had nothing to do with cultivation. It was about feelings. Night Sorrow felt that. Being a person, or rather, as a cultivator, feelings for the country were very important. And Longqing Supreme was clearly someone who could take on such responsibilities. If it wasn't for the accident back then, he would have led the God World to stand at the peak of the eternal supreme world. No need to be so serious. Although we are from different eras, we should still be friends. Supreme Longevity smiled and said, "Next, I will impart to you a few mystiques." Mystiques? Knight Sorrow looked at him in confusion. The Supreme Longevity explained, "Mystiques are the inherited secret techniques of each territory. What I'm going to impart to you is the God World's inherited secret technique, God's Finger. As well as the 9 mystical territories' inherited secret skill, Mysterious Sky's Secret Shadow. Arcane Shadows was the best movement technique in the Eternal Sovereign World. As for the Divine Finger, it is the secret skill with the strongest attack power. Inherited secret technique. So the God Realm's inherited secret techniques haven't been lost," Yi Shan said in shock. He didn't expect the Supreme Longevity to know the secret technique of the Divine World's territory, and even control the secret technique of the 9 mystical territories. "I'm probably one of the people who know the secret techniques of the God Realm. There will be another you in the future. As for the Mysterious Sky Shadow, don't use it unless it's a life-saving situation." After Chongqing said that, he extended a finger and tapped Knight Sorrow's forehead. In an instant, 2 sparkling and translucent runes appeared in Yi Shang's mind. After absorbing these 2 runes, Knight Sorrow didn't even need to comprehend them. He directly learned the God's Finger and Mysterious Sky's Secret Shadow that Supreme Longevity had imparted to him. These 2 mystiques are indeed amazing. After Knight Sorrow learned these 2 mystiques, his movement technique and attack power improved tremendously. If you are smart enough, you can combine these 2 mystiques to create a new ultimate technique. Then, you can use it as you wish. Supreme Longevity added, "As a matter of fact, there are over 10,000 realms in the Eternal Supreme World. Legend has it that if you can combine the mystiques of tens of thousands of territories, it will become the strongest technique in the world. However, how can it be possible to obtain the mystiques of tens of thousands of territories? Combining the mystiques of tens of thousands of territories, this is indeed something that I don't even dare to think about." Knight Sorrow smiled, but his heart was shaken. Yes. Only by combining tens of thousands of Daos can one become the strongest. Supreme Longevity finished and sighed. If the territories of the Eternal Sovereign World can put aside their selfishness and contribute all their mystiques, perhaps when the Great Calamity comes, our Eternal Sovereign World will have a chance. However, there will always be black sheep in the world, defecting to the enemy or being selfish. This idea is an impossible dream. Yes. Although I haven't been in the Eternal Sovereign World for long, I can see that this place is definitely not a monolithic block. When the Great Calamity comes, who knows what will happen? Knight Sorrow agreed. From the battle for Providence, he realized that most of the territories in the Eternal Sovereign World had evil intentions. When it comes to the Great Calamity, the Eternal Sovereign World can only rely on its looks. As for you, you are a variable. You have the potential to reach the Supreme Realm, but time is a problem. Supreme Longevity said. Then, he continued, although I am not sure of the exact time, that day is not too far away. What you need to do now is to quickly increase your strength and lead the territories in the God World to increase their strength. If the Eternal Sovereign World cannot save them, we will think of a way to save the God World. All right. In that case, Senior Longevity, I will first return to the God World to take a look. After that, I will rescue the 2 Vice City Lords and strive to become a Supreme while rescuing them. Knight Sorrow cupped his fists at Supreme Longevity and prepared to head to the teleportation portal. At this moment, Supreme Longevity said, if you want to increase your strength quickly, the fog is a good place. The white jade on you can help you to calm your mind and ensure that you will not be affected by the normal fog. Alright. After rescuing the 2 Vice City Lords, I will go to the fog to cultivate. Knight Sorrow nodded at Supreme Longevity and flew to the teleportation portal. He looked at the other party and asked, Senior Longevity, if I take these rewards away, won't I expose your identity? No worries. I have a solution. Supreme Longevity Immortal smiled and turned back into Feng Wuji, disappearing from the world. Strong. Really strong. He should be one of the best among the Sky Supremes. It's just that he did not have the chance to reach the Supreme Realm. What a pity. After Supreme Longevity transformed into Feng Wuji and left, Little Seven could not help but sigh. When Supreme Longevity was around, it was suppressed to the point that it did not dare to speak. Bai Yu was the same. After Supreme Longevity left, he exclaimed, I can't believe I have such a use. I can be used to resist the fog. Originally, Bai Yu thought that he was just a useless piece of jade that could only be used to cultivate his mind. Now, he was very surprised. He felt that he had become a useful piece of jade. No one can be compared to your effectiveness. I will have to rely on you when I go to the fog in the future. Otherwise, I might be affected by the fog too. I might turn into a bloodthirsty monster. Night Sorrow said to Bai Yu, then activated the teleportation portal and returned to the God world. Clan M. Chapter 30-39. Night Sorrow stepped out of the teleportation circle and appeared in the teleportation circle of Peace City. There was no one around the teleportation circle. Night Sorrow used his divine soul to check and found that there were no cultivators in Peace City except for some guards. He then used his divine soul to check and found that Prime Golden Crow was still sitting at the gate of Peace City. Therefore, Yi Shang flew towards the gate of Ping An City. Prime Golden Crow. Where are the people in Peace City? Yi Shang asked doubtfully after arriving beside the Golden Crow Paragon. Hee. They have all returned to the realm of the gods to celebrate. Our realm of the gods has won the battle of Providence. This is great news and worth celebrating. Prime Golden Crow waited for Night Sorrow to speak before he looked at him and said with a smile. I see. That's good to hear. Night Sorrow was relieved when he heard this. He thought that something had happened to the realm of the gods. Night Sorrow. This time, the realm of the gods has resolved the crisis and achieved such a good result. You have contributed greatly. I thank you on behalf of everyone in the realm of the gods. While saying this, the Golden Crow stood up from the ground and prepared to bow. Night Sorrow quickly stopped him. Senior Golden Crow, please don't do this. This is what Night Sorrow should do. I can't accept your great gift. Of course. If it weren't for you, the providence of our realm of the gods would have been depleted. By then, we would have become the prey of the other territories. Prime Golden Crow sighed and continued, everyone is celebrating. You should go back to the realm of the gods. After all, you are the main character. Senior Golden Crow, now that the providence of our realm of the gods has increased by so much, the other territories wouldn't dare to invade us. Why don't you go back and celebrate with everyone? Night Sorrow invited. He had to go back. At the very least, he had to see his wife Jing Yun and Wu Lingfei. He had to figure out what had happened between the two of them. I won't go back. You can go back and celebrate. I will continue to stand guard here for everyone. After saying that, the Golden Crow sat on the ground again and closed his eyes to rest. Then I'll take my leave. Night Sorrow said as he looked at the back of the Golden Crow. He then flew towards the celestial realm from Peace City. Along the way, he did not meet any cultivators. It was clear that most of the cultivators in the Divine World were gathered in the Divine World cities. As expected. When Night Sorrow flew back to the outskirts of the Divine World City, he used his divine sense to investigate and found that it was indeed the case. At this time, 2 large red lanterns were hung high above the city gate, looking very festive. As for the city, there were cheers and laughter everywhere. This was something that had never happened in the Divine World City for tens of thousands of years. Seeing everyone's smiles, Knight Sorrow suddenly felt that everything he had done was worth it. However, when he thought of the few Lemmeter creatures in the foggy area, his fighting spirit rose once again. He thought to himself, no matter what, I have to protect the Divine World and my family and friends. Knight Sorrow did not have deep feelings for the Eternal Supreme World. However, the Divine World and its territories were too important to him. The degree of importance could be compared to his life. I feel that your friends aren't very loyal to their friends. You narrowly escaped death and they actually came back to celebrate like this. At this time, Little Seven said unhappily. Everyone should be happy and celebrate after winning the championship. Besides, this is definitely not their idea. Yishang smiled and used the power of his divine soul to sweep towards the City Lord's mansion. At this time, in the City Lord mansion, some of the important supremes of the Divine World territory were present. Xiao Tianxian, Myriad Sword Sect, and others were also present. Many of the supremes were in a good mood. Especially the White Tiger, who kept saying something. However, Xiao Tianxian, Myriad Sword Sect, Wu Lingfei, and others did not look too good. Knight Sorrow glanced and realized that they should be unhappy because of his matter. He transmitted his voice to Little Seven and said, "Look at you, gauging the heart of a gentleman with the yardstick of a villain. All right. They are quite loyal." Little Seven also glanced and said faintly. It had the strength of an Earth Supreme. Even the Supremes of the Divine World territory did not sense it. However, when Knight Sorrow was probing the City Lord mansion, he was sensed by Supreme Ancestor Phoenix. When Supreme Ancestor Phoenix sensed this aura, he immediately flew out of the City Lord mansion. Good. 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 Seeing that it was Knight Sorrow standing outside the City Lord mansion, Supreme Ancestor Phoenix said 3 good words in a row. Then, he said excitedly, "Knight Sorrow. I am so happy that you can come back. Without you, this celebration ceremony would have no meaning at all. Follow me in." "All right." Knight Sorrow replied and did not refuse. In front of him was some rare time as a cultivator. After resting for a while, he would once again embark on his journey. After all, the 2 deputy city lords were still trapped in the big and small grotto heavens. And in the supreme space, there were many other supremes of the other territories who had sealed the Divine World territory. It was not easy to break through their blockade. Knight Sorrow. Knight Sorrow, you're back. It's really you, that's great. When Knight Sorrow followed Supreme Ancestor Phoenix into the City Lord mansion, Myriad Sword Sect was the first to stand up. Wu Lingfei, who originally had a gloomy expression, suddenly burst into tears. Hee hee. Hello everyone. I've returned safely. Knight Sorrow smiled and greeted everyone, then walked to Wu Lingfei's side and sat down. For a moment, Xiao Tianxian, Myriad Sword Sect, Murongzhenlu, and the others all became energetic and began to chat with him. What everyone asked was basically how Knight Sorrow managed to survive and return. And Knight Sorrow naturally would not reveal that Supreme Longevity had possessed Feng Wuji, so he casually made up a story. He said that Feng Wuji and Supreme Moonfeather's battle was too intense. In the situation where they were locked in battle, he used the restriction-breaking hammer to break the seal and successfully escape through the teleportation array. Everyone who could not think of any other possibility naturally believed it. Then, under the auspices of Supreme Ancestor Phoenix, everyone began to enjoy a celebratory feast. When the celebratory feast was over, Wu Lingfei looked at Knight Sorrow and said, "Go and see Jing Yun. She heard that you didn't return and became depressed. She locked herself in the house and refused to come out." "All right. I'll go and see her, then we'll settle the matter between us," Yishang said as he walked towards the courtyard where Jing Yun was. Before they even arrived, he had already used the power of his divine sense to scan them. With this scan, he was instantly enraged. At this moment, Jingyun was sitting in the house with a gloomy expression. In her courtyard, there was a black shadow that was preparing to launch a sneak attack on her. Genius memorized this address in a second. Human mobile version reading website. Chapter 30-40. Moreover, this black figure clearly had the aura of a supreme martial artist. If not for Night Sorrow's arrival, Jingyun would have been killed. To attack Night Sorrow's family in the realm of gods, needless to say, this supreme martial artist must have been bribed by people from other territories. While Night Sorrow was furious, he was not willing to give him a chance to attack. He immediately used the divine finger on him. This was a divine ability that he had just learned from the supreme longevity. With a point of his finger, a pale blue light pillar immediately blasted out. Who's there? The black-clothed supreme martial artist, who was about to attack Jingyun, immediately frowned as he noticed Night Sorrow's attack. However, just as he was about to counterattack, his dantian was directly shattered by this finger. Who's there? I should be the one asking you these 3 words. Night Sorrow's attack succeeded and did not give the other party any chance to escape or even self-destruct. He immediately sealed his soul and broke his disguise. After breaking his disguise, Night Sorrow's heart skipped a beat. The black-clothed supreme martial artist in front of him was actually the Silver Spear Supremacy, Yang Tiancheng. Tell me, why did you attack my family? Before the fight for Providence, the Silver Spear Supremacy, Yang Tiancheng, had taught Night Sorrow the Yang's heaven-splitting art. This move had helped Night Sorrow many times in the future battles. For a moment, Night Sorrow could not accept it. Winner takes all, what's there to say? Yang Tiancheng, whose dantian had been destroyed, revealed a cold smile on his face. There was no longer the fierce and peaceful look on his face. It was completely occupied by ruthlessness. What's going on? Husband, you're back. At this moment, Jingyun, who had been startled by the sound, came back to her senses and walked out of the room. Seeing Night Sorrow return, she immediately burst into tears like Wu Lingfei. Jingyun. We'll talk about our matters later. This person in front of you wanted to launch a sneak attack on you just now. We have to interrogate him clearly. Night Sorrow said coldly. Senior Silver Spear Supremacy, Yang Tiancheng. How is this possible? When Jingyun saw that the black-clothed man was Yang Tiancheng, a look of disbelief appeared on her face. Nothing is impossible. If I hadn't arrived in time, you might have already been killed. Night Sorrow said with lingering fear. When she heard this, Jingyun frowned and said, why don't we hand him over to Exalt Zhu Feng and the others for interrogation? I'm afraid it's not appropriate for us to interrogate him alone. All right. Night Sorrow replied and transmitted his voice to Supreme Ancestor Phoenix. When Paragon Ancestor Phoenix arrived and saw what was happening, she immediately transmitted a message to the other paragons in the God world. When these supreme beings arrived, they couldn't believe their eyes. No one believed that the Silver Spear Paragon, Yang Tiancheng, would do such a thing. However, Night Sorrow cultivated the power of virtue and never spoke nonsense. Naturally, they would not doubt Night Sorrow. Everyone, bring him back to the City Lord Mansion for interrogation. When the numerous Supreme Beings arrived, Supreme Being Zhu Feng immediately gave the order to bring Yang Tiancheng back to the City Lord's mansion. Then, she and the other Supreme Beings began to interrogate him. During the process of interrogating Yang Tiancheng, Night Sorrow did not participate. After going through a series of battles, he was a little tired. That night, he talked to Jingyun for a while before resting with her. The next morning, Supreme Ancestor Phoenix came to look for Night Sorrow. He told her the whole story. It turned out that the Silver Spear paragon, Yang Tiancheng, had already defected to a subordinate territory of the Moon's Shadow territory. He had received the order to kill Knight Sorrow's family. After saying this, Supreme Ancestor Phoenix asked, "Knight Sorrow, how do you think we should deal with him? Kill him directly or what?" Senior Ancestor Phoenix, just make the arrangements. However, since such a thing happened in the God world, we must be more vigilant in the future. After saying this, Knight Sorrow asked, "By the way, Senior Ancestor Phoenix, how is the matter in the Supreme Space? Are there people from other territories waiting for us?" Such a thing happening in the main city of the God world gave him a very bad feeling. Knight Sorrow wanted to quickly rescue the two deputy city lords and return to take charge of the situation. Sigh. Don't mention it. A few days ago, we sent people to investigate. As soon as they entered the Supreme Space, they were killed by people from other territories. They've gone too far. Supreme Ancestor Phoenix said with a gloomy face. Senior Ancestor Phoenix, how many supreme beings are there and how strong they are? Knight Sorrow continued to ask in detail. I'm not sure about their specific strength. There are about 20 to 30 of them. They are scattered outside the passage of our God world territory. If many of us enter, they will immediately gather a large number of supreme beings, making it impossible for us to go in. Supreme Ancestor Phoenix sighed. Now in the God world territory, the strength of the sovereigns had increased qualitatively. Other than Knight Sorrow, everyone who participated in the battle for Providence had advanced to the half-step supreme being level. This was something unimaginable in the past. Senior Ancestor Phoenix, I'm clear about the matter. You have worked hard. Knight Sorrow said and sent Supreme Ancestor Phoenix away. Then, he gathered everyone who participated in the battle for Providence in Jing Yun's small courtyard. After setting up the defense, he said, I'm sure you all are clear about what happened to Jing Yun. Now in the God world territory, I'm afraid there aren't many people who can be trusted. I can only trust you all. In a few days, I will enter the Supreme Space to investigate. But I don't feel at ease asking other supreme beings to come with me. Who among you is willing to take the risk with me? Everyone in front of him had gone through life and death together. Knight Sorrow trusted them. I'm willing. After Knight Sorrow finished speaking, Myriad Sword Sect was the first to answer. He didn't have any consideration, so he answered faster than anyone else. After Myriad Sword Sect finished speaking, Xiao Tianxian also responded, Of course I'm willing. At this time, Murong Zhenlu said with a smile, Knight Sorrow, you should be the one who's unwilling, right? We are all brothers who have gone through life and death together. Naturally, we will enjoy blessings and endure hardships together. That's right, we are all willing to fight side by side with you. Yuan Fengxue also nodded. Her statement was quickly affirmed by the others. Seeing that everyone had agreed, Knight Sorrow said in a good mood, then let's completely form a gold team. Let's stand side by side. However, if a worker wants to do a good job, he must first sharpen his tools. It's time for me to distribute the champion's reward to everyone. No, you were the one who fought for the championship. You keep it to break through to the Supreme Realm. After Knight Sorrow finished speaking, Jin Xian immediately retorted. Like Jin Xian, the others were not willing to accept the gift. After all, Knight Sorrow had chosen to let them recover their strength in front of Yan Hengshi, and everyone had already taken advantage of it once. Without you, I wouldn't have been able to get this championship. Everyone should share it together. As for me advancing to the Supreme Realm, it should be in the Supreme Space. Knight Sorrow recalled what the Supreme Longevity had said and guessed that he should be able to advance to the Supreme Realm in the big and small grotto heavens. Clan M. Chapter 3041. At this time, Xiao Tianxian said, "How about this? Jing Yun's strength is relatively weak. Let her absorb these resources and strive to advance to half-step Supreme Being. Strive to catch up to us and advance in the grotto heavens together." Yes. That's fine. It's already a pity that she didn't participate in the War of Providence. This time, we must make up for this regret. Let's go together. Hearing Xiao Tianxuan's words, Yuan Fingxue immediately agreed. At this time, she stood together with Wu Lingfei and Jing Yun. Not good. This is not good. I didn't do anything. I can't enjoy the rewards alone. Jing Yun embarrassedly declined. No need to be embarrassed. Our strength has reached a bottleneck. Relying on these rewards alone, we can't advance to Supreme Being. You can use these resources to cultivate at ease. Seeing that Jing Yun was unwilling to accept the resources, Wu Lingfei immediately persuaded. Then, Murong Zhenlu and the others also persuaded her. In the end, Jing Yun accepted the Supreme Being and Earth Supreme Being's law and essence. Night Sorrow, when are we leaving? After Jing Yun accepted the things and began cultivating, Myriad Sword Sect asked with interest. No hurry. We just returned. Someone must be watching us. Currently, there must be a traitor in the realm of the gods. We need to wait for the other party to lower their vigilance before leaving. Night Sorrow said and continued, we need to create the illusion that everyone is trying to advance to Supreme Being. Then, sneak into the Supreme Being space. What we need now is the map of the Supreme Being space. Otherwise, we will be very blind when we enter. Leave the map to me. I can handle it. My grandfather definitely has it. Jin Xian said and continued, do you want me to go get it now? Go. I'm not suitable to go with you. Brother Wan will go with you. However, you don't just need to get the map. You also need to set up a few teleportation formations in the hunting area. Night Sorrow looked at Jin Xian and said. Then, Jin Xian and Myriad Sword Sect went to Peace City together. According to Night Sorrow's instructions, they set up the teleportation formations. The teleportation formations were naturally used by Night Sorrow to shake off some Supreme Beings. After the two of them left, Jing Yun entered a state of cultivation. As for the champion's reward that Night Sorrow had brought back, to a lesser dominator, it was simply heaven-defying. After absorbing for more than a month, she had directly advanced to the middle-level dominator rank. This speed of improvement didn't seem like something a sovereign could achieve. It was precisely because her strength had increased too quickly that Jing Yun's state of mind was somewhat affected, and she did not dare to continue cultivating like this. At this rate, she should be able to reach half Martial Highness in less than 3 years. This cultivation speed was like that of a low-level cultivator who had just started cultivating. This wasn't something a ruler should have. After Jing Yun told Night Sorrow about her state of mind, Night Sorrow smiled and said, you don't have to feel burdened. Look at how many years we've been participating in the Battle of Providence. I've already advanced from the Divine King to a half-step Supreme. Although you've improved a lot after we left, the gap is still very obvious. Therefore, it shouldn't be a problem for me to quickly increase my strength. Is that so? In the divine world, anyone who could advance to the dominator rank within a few epochs was a top genius. At the Eternal Supreme level, with the support of large amounts of resources, the speed of advancing to the dominator rank was more than 1,000,000 times faster. At this time, Jing Yun was still somewhat confused and felt that everything was too dreamy. Jing Yun. It's like this in the Eternal Supreme world. If you can't keep up with the pace, you'll be eliminated. The speed of improvement here is faster than in the divine world because this world is more advanced and more cruel. After Night Sorrow said this, he continued, to tell you the truth, it won't be long before the Eternal Supreme world welcomes a terrifying calamity. Do you know how strong our opponents are? Not supremes, not earth supremes, not sky supremes, but ultimate supreme. Imagine how big the difference is. If we don't quickly increase our strength, how can we fight against them? Night sorrow. Is what you said true? Hearing this, Xiao Tianxian and the others all became solemn. This was no ordinary matter. Every word is true, and the source is very reliable. The enemies we are about to face are from the same era as Yan Hengshi. Moreover, in the last great calamity, he had killed Yan Hengshi and severely injured another senior. Moreover, they killed all the other experts in the eternal supreme world and absorbed all their energy. The people in our eternal paragon realm are all newly matured. Night Sorrow said with a solemn expression. The three sovereigns in the foggy area were definitely the greatest threat to the eternal supreme world. Originally, Night Sorrow didn't want to talk about this matter in detail, but because of Jing Yun's cultivation, he couldn't help but say it. By the time Yi Shang had finished explaining the matter, no one present said a word. They knew the seriousness of this matter. After a long silence, Jing Yun broke the silence and said, I understand. I won't be a burden to everyone anymore. After saying that, Jing Yun returned to the secret chamber to cultivate. A year later, Jing Yun successfully advanced to an intermediate dominator. 2.5 years later, she successfully advanced to an upper dominator. At this time, Jing Yun originally wanted to continue cultivating, but Jin Xian and Myriad Sword Master returned, indicating that the matter had been settled. Thus, Night Sorrow called Jing Yun out of her cultivation state. He said to everyone, this time, we are going to the Grotto Heaven to save the 2 deputy city lords. However, there are traitors in the Divine World territory, so we need to do it secretly. Everyone, follow me to the hunting area. Let's get rid of some of the spies. Okay. The others present didn't say much, but they were full of fighting spirit. Then, Night Sorrow led them into the hunting area. The hunting area was a barrier that Supremes couldn't easily attack, but if they just stepped in, it wasn't a big deal. Night Sorrow and the others had just entered when someone followed them. Someone is following us. It should be Supreme Lu He. We are fully capable of killing him. But there's no need. We have to create the illusion that we have entered the forbidden area. And use the teleportation array to leave. If our true destination is exposed, there will definitely be many Supremes in the Supreme space to kill us. After Night Sorrow finished speaking, he led everyone into the forbidden area. This time, when he entered the forbidden area again, he felt completely different from the last time. Those golden wild beasts that had been difficult to deal with in the past were no longer a threat in his eyes. However, when he saw the stone coffin in the forbidden area again, he still felt that he couldn't see through it. Because of this, he didn't meet the Supremes who had helped him before. However, the eggs that he had come into contact with had already hatched. After he found them, he gave them some resources. Then, he kept everyone in the Grotto Heaven, used the concealment rune, and left the forbidden area. Chapter 30-42. When Night Sorrow led the group out of the forbidden zone, the supreme beings outside were still monitoring them. Moreover, 3 of them appeared at once. Aren't they afraid of being exposed for spying on us so blatantly? Wan Jianzong, who was hiding in Night Sorrow's space Grotto Heaven, said unhappily when he saw the supreme beings after Night Sorrow's reminder. Hearing this, Night Sorrow sneered. Do you think it's a good thing to join other territories? They must have made some kind of oath that they must do whatever the other party asks of them. Pitiful people must have something to hate. Wan Jianzong said disdainfully. If the heavenly realm wasn't facing a crisis, they wouldn't have made such a choice. At that time, the heavenly realm was in danger. It's understandable that they joined other territories. Night Sorrow glanced at the 3 supreme beings who didn't notice him and said coldly, it's understandable, but unforgivable. Yes. Absolutely unforgivable. Yuan Fengxue said disdainfully. Most of the cultivators were very righteous. They could not accept the act of betraying their own territory. What's our next step? At this time, Xiao Tianxian asked. Just in case, we'll use the teleportation portal. After a few teleportations, we'll go to the supreme space. Everyone, be careful. When we reach the supreme space, we might encounter the supreme beings of other territories. A battle will be unavoidable. Moreover, the other party should be supreme beings, whose cultivation realm is higher than ours. When we fight, we must ensure our own safety. Knight Sorrow said and led the group to use the teleportation portal. They teleported 7 to 8 times in a row. They successfully appeared at the entrance of the supreme space. At this time, there was no one at the entrance of the supreme space. This was normal. After all, the heavenly realm was targeted by other territories. As long as they entered the supreme space, they would be intercepted and killed. This also caused the heavenly realm's territory to not have anyone enter the supreme space for many years. Let's go. After so many years, no one has entered. The supremes of the other territories should have relaxed their guard by now. After all, they still have to cultivate. Seeing that there was no one at the entrance of the supreme space, Xiao Tianxian said. Something's not right. At this moment, Yi Shang's brows furrowed. He discovered that there were several image crystals at the entrance of the sovereign space. Although Night Sorrow had a concealment rune on his body, this kind of image crystal could record the patterns of energy fluctuations. Upon closer inspection, there was definitely someone who had entered. After Night Sorrow told them about the image crystal, Master of 10,000 Swords said, "What's there to be afraid of? By the time they realize that we've been here, everyone will be long gone. It won't delay the rescue." But after being discovered, it will be very difficult for us to come back. Night Sorrow said with a frown. If the hostile forces found out about their entry, they would definitely arrange for many supreme beings to block their way back. Then it would be difficult for the people in front of him to come back. That is a problem. Destroying the crystal won't work either. Yuan Fengxue said with a frown. These few image crystals had become a problem. At this moment, Night Sorrow sent a voice transmission to Restriction Breaker and Little Seven. Do you have any ideas? The image crystals set up by the enemy look very simple. But they are made by an Earth Supreme Being, so it won't be so easy to destroy. After observing for a while, Little Seven said. Restriction Breaker's male hammer also said, that's right. It's easy to destroy them, but it's almost impossible to do so without alerting the enemy. Unless they have the strength of a Sky Supreme Being. Forget it. In that case, we'll just go in like this. We'll talk about it when we come back. Maybe when we become supreme beings, the supreme beings from the other territories will be useless. Indeed, there was no other way. Night Sorrow, who did not want to waste any more time, did not hesitate and directly entered the sovereign space. After entering the sovereign space, Night Sorrow sent a voice transmission to everyone. There should be many supreme beings from the enemy territories nearby. There are too many people, so I won't let everyone out for now. All right. You have the best movement technique, the strongest strength, and the eye of the Mirage Dragon. You should hurry. Jin Xian said as he handed the map to Night Sorrow. The big and small grotto heavens are not too far away from us. If nothing unexpected happens, we can reach it in 3 months. Night Sorrow scanned the map with his divine spirit and memorized everything on it. In the sovereign space, he directly flew in that direction. Below them, there were some unknown tall ancient trees. In the ancient trees, there were many sovereign-level ferocious beasts. Some of the ferocious beast kings even had the strength of a supreme being. Night Sorrow used the eye of the Mirage Dragon to observe and found that there were many Supreme Being spiritual herbs nearby. However, he did not go down to snatch them. For the people of the heavenly realm, if they wanted to further strengthen their foundation, they would have to absorb as many Earth Supreme Being items as possible. Therefore, in Night Sorrow's opinion, although Supreme Being items could be absorbed, they were not necessary. This sovereign space doesn't look that scary. After flying safely for 5 days, Master Wan Jian in the grotto heaven sighed. Yishang chuckled and said, "That's nothing. According to the map, we won't be able to reach the end of the sovereign space even if we fly for hundreds of years. The area is huge, what we see now is only the tip of the iceberg. Moreover, there are too many Supreme Beings targeting our heavenly realm, so there are too many ferocious beasts around. Therefore, we didn't encounter any danger after flying for 5 days." "That's true." Master Wan Jian transmitted his voice. The others also laughed and chatted. "Fellow Daoist, please wait." However, just as they were chatting, a shout suddenly came from not far away. It was the voice of a male cultivator, but it sounded very strange, like the roar of a wild beast. "What can I do for you?" Night Sorrow turned to look at the other party. It was a cultivator with a human body and a leopard head. His aura indicated that he should be an intermediate Supreme Being. "Oh. Half-step Supreme Being. You're not even a Supreme Being, why did you enter the sovereign space? Aren't you afraid of dying here?" Seeing that Night Sorrow was only a half-step Supreme Being, the leopard-head Supreme Being immediately asked doubtfully. He did not immediately show any hostility. "I'm afraid, but I want to advance to the Supreme Being level here. If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave first." Night Sorrow replied and directly took his leave. The other party was most likely an enemy of the heavenly realm. He did not want to waste time talking, nor did he want to make a move for no reason and attract a large number of enemies. "Wait. Why are you in such a hurry to leave? Are you feeling guilty? Are you from the heavenly realm?" Seeing that Night Sorrow wanted to leave, the leopard-head Supreme Being's eyes suddenly lit up. Clan M. Chapter 30-43. It had been a long time since someone from the heavenly realm appeared in the supreme space. When he saw Night Sorrow, he subconsciously thought that he was from another territory like him. It's been a long time since someone from the heavenly realm appeared. "I'm the same as you, waiting here. But I didn't find anything, so I prepared to go to other areas to look for opportunities." Yishang's expression didn't change as he replied. There were many dangers in the sovereign space. He felt that it was better to avoid trouble, so he explained patiently. "No. Your aura doesn't seem like you're from another territory. You're from the heavenly realm." "Ha! Today, I, Hu Bao, am in luck. Surrender now." Hu Bao laughed loudly, took out a Chong flute, and blew it. "Not good. He's summoning others. Let us go out and kill him together." Hearing the flute, Master Wan Jian immediately shouted. "It's true that whatever you hate, you'll get it. But don't worry, I don't need you guys." Night Sorrow transmitted his voice and directly shot Hu Bao with the divine finger. It directly destroyed the Dantian of the intermediate supreme space. Divine finger. Isn't that a long-lost ability of the heavenly realm? You're really from the heavenly realm. And an important person. You can't escape, you can't escape." Hu Bao shouted angrily after his Dantian was destroyed. But by the time he said those words, Night Sorrow had already destroyed his deity ocean. "Brother Yi. Amazing. A middle supremacy was actually insta-killed by you." Seeing that Yishang had killed the leopard fox in one move, the myriad sword sex master in the heavenly abode praised. He originally thought that since they were all half-step supreme space, their strength should be about the same. But Night Sorrow's move just now made him give up on that idea. Not only did the gap between them not shrink, but it also widened. Xiao Tianxian asked curiously, Night Sorrow, what was that move just now? Its terrifying attack power is unheard of. This absolute art is called God's Finger. It's a long-lost divine ability of the God world. You can learn it after you've advanced to the supremacy stage. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to keep it. After all, if I learn this kind of divine ability, I have to prevent it from being leaked. As Night Sorrow spoke, he sped up. The identity he used was not the 9 mystical lands mystique, but it was derived from the 9 mystical lands mystique, mysterious sky shadow. It was called the secret shadow of God. This movement technique was much stronger than the profound sky dragon roaming steps. His speed had almost reached the level of a half-step earthly sovereign. However, although Night Sorrow's speed was fast, he was still quickly discovered by another supreme martial artist. After this supreme being discovered Night Sorrow, he didn't immediately attack. Instead, he transmitted his voice to the other supreme beings nearby. He wanted those people to cooperate with him and form an encirclement, preparing to surround Yi Chang. Clearly, there were a lot of supreme beings in the vicinity. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to surround them. This isn't good. I'm afraid we'll encounter a lot of supreme beings this time. Everyone should have a chance to come out and fight. After flying for about 2 days, Night Sorrow suddenly came to a conclusion. When he flew over a wasteland, he realized that he had nowhere to go. He had been blocked by more than 10 supreme beings. Ha! If I'm not wrong, you're Night Sorrow, the one who shone in the Battle of Providence in the realm of gods, right? After a total of 13 supreme beings blocked Night Sorrow, a middle-aged scholarly male cultivator asked with a cold smile. It's me. What are you going to do? Night Sorrow didn't seem to know the other party's purpose. In fact, he was using the power of his godly soul to check if there were other supreme beings around. He didn't expect to be discovered so quickly. If he had known, he wouldn't have cared about the image crystal. Ha ha ha. If it's you, we've succeeded. Your bounty is a half-step earthly sovereign divine weapon. And a large amount of earthly sovereign rules in essence. A greedy look appeared on the scholarly man's face. Since you know that my bounty is high, why don't you think about whether you have the ability to take it? Night Sorrow looked at him coldly. This scholarly man was an upper supreme being, and the other supreme beings present were 5 intermediate supreme beings and 7 lower supreme beings. With such strength, Night Sorrow could deal with him if he used all his means. You're just a half-step supreme being, what's so difficult to deal with? Brothers, attack me. After we get the reward, we'll split it equally. The scholarly-looking cultivator roared and attacked together with the others. At this time, Night Sorrow transmitted to everyone, there must be a large number of supreme beings from other territories around. Everyone, attack together and strive to win. After saying that, he released all the people from Myriad Sword Sect. At this time, there were a total of 11 of them, including Jing Yun. 11 against 13, they wouldn't lose in terms of numbers. Apart from Jing Yun, who was an upper supreme being, everyone else was a half-step supreme being. Although they were half-step supreme beings, 3 or 4 of them could cross realms and fight supreme beings. Although the others were slightly weaker than supreme beings, with the 3 of them working together, defeating an ordinary supreme being was not a problem at all. In this way, the pressure left for Night Sorrow was much less. Originally, there were 13 supreme beings, all ready to attack him, but now, there were only 5 supreme beings left, including the scholarly man. To ordinary cultivators, facing 5 supreme beings alone with a half-step supreme being was a nightmare for them. The scholarly man and the others also thought so. However, they soon realized that their way of thinking was completely wrong. Knight Soro's strength was far stronger than they imagined. His true strength was close to half-step supreme being. Coupled with the golden heavenly halberd, he was simply unstoppable. In the process of the battle, the scholarly man and the others had already transmitted to the other supreme beings nearby. They knew that they couldn't take down Knight Soro and the others at all. Therefore, as the battle progressed, Knight Soro and the others found that although they were constantly killing supreme beings, the enemies were obviously increasing. Brother Yi, we can't go on like this. Although our strength is enough, we can't handle so many people. If this continues, the local supreme beings can't go more than 100. In the process of the battle, Murong Zhenlu said with some worry. That's true. The enemy's supreme beings are like ants, more and more. We can't continue to waste time. Knight Soro, who had already killed more than 10 supreme beings, saw that the number of enemies had increased to more than 20. He was ready to completely explode. He immediately used the Traistrum's battle secret technique and raised his aura to the strongest. And summoned Little Seven. He ordered, Little Seven, explode your ability and absorb all these people. As for the chaotic heavenly crystal beast, after the Battle of Providence ended, it had absorbed a large amount of Earth's supreme beings' laws and essence and was in a deep sleep. It should be about to advance from middle supreme being to upper supreme being. Knight Soro didn't disturb it. Clan M. Chapter 3044. Let me try. I don't know why, but I can feel a strong suppression in this sovereign space. I'm afraid I can't fully unleash the power of an earthly sovereign. After Little Seven was summoned, he immediately felt that something was wrong. After giving it a try, he realized that this was indeed the case. At most, he could only exert the power of a half-step earthly sovereign. It seems that Senior Longevity was defeated not only because he was poisoned or besieged, but also because of the suppression of the sovereign space. After hearing Little Seven's words, Knight Soro immediately thought of the fall of Supreme Longevity. The suppression of the sovereign space was definitely a nightmare for Supreme Longevity. However, after Knight Soro understood this, he immediately calmed down. With the suppression of the sovereign space, the earthly sovereigns from other territories wouldn't dare to appear. After all, those peerless experts treasured their own feathers. He didn't want to repeat the same mistake as Supreme Longevity. This way, Knight Soro and the other earthly sovereigns in the realm of gods would have a much better living environment in the sovereign space. After all, without the existence of an earthly sovereign, Knight Soro would soon have no natural enemies. Brother Yi, there are more and more enemies, and many earthly sovereigns from other territories are rushing over. What should we do? Murong Guides, who was in the middle of the battle, saw Knight Soro's eyes and knew that he was thinking about something. However, the current development of the battle was extremely disadvantageous for the people in the realm of gods. If the battle continued, they wouldn't be able to hold on much longer. Injuries and even death were inevitable. It's okay, I haven't unleashed my full power yet. Knight Soro replied to Murong Guides. Then, he transmitted his voice to Little Seven. Since you can't unleash your full power, let's work together. I'll defeat one, and you'll absorb one. Okay. That's easier. Little Seven replied excitedly after hearing Knight Soro's words. You guys have bullied the realm of gods for long enough. From today onwards, this situation will completely change. Knight Soro, who was holding the golden heavenly halberd, placed the small tower on his shoulder and completely activated the flames of the Phoenix battle armor. The Phoenix battle armor on his body had actually been damaged many times. However, the magical thing about it was that every time it was destroyed, it would successfully be reborn. Its strength now reached the level of a sovereign. Haha! Ignorant junior. You think that you can shine in the fight for sovereign rank's destiny? You think you can wreak havoc in the sovereign space. If you focus on cultivating for a few eras, you might be able to. But you's wrongs came too early. Everyone, attack together. Today, our priority is to kill this little bastard who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Zhu Xian Sovereign Space was surrounded the 9 sovereigns SSSSS spaces his sovereigns. Sovereigns at his command, est have A's sovereign heavens S sovereignty, TTST, S origin sovereigns AAA's his S after he spoke. A few sovereigns gave up on dealing with the others and surrounded Night Sorrow. In an instant, the number of sovereigns surrounding him had increased to 7. Little bastard, you dare to kill Xian Qingyu of the 9's origin sovereign. Let's see how you'll die today. Supreme Zhu Xian, who was attacking Yi Shang with the other 6-9 Heaven Supremes, clenched his teeth and roared. He then executed an ultimate move at Yi Shang. Heavenly Heaven Slash. The half-step earthly sovereign Zhu Xian's attack was extremely powerful. He looked like he was going to fight with his life on the line. Amazing. How can we still attack? When Zhu Xian attacked, the other 6 sovereigns even forgot to attack. In their opinion, this attack had reached the limit of a sovereign's. And Night Sorrow was a half-earth sovereign. Everyone felt that Night Sorrow would definitely be killed by this attack. Night Sorrow, be careful. This attack isn't simple. Little Seven, who was on Night Sorrow's shoulder, also rose. It also realized the power of this attack. Don't worry, if it was in the past, I don't think it would be easy for you to take this attack. But now, I've already learned the 9's origin sovereign's divine ability. This attack of his is derived from the origin sovereign's divine ability. I can easily break it. Night Sorrow, who had activated the Clam Dragon's Eye, could see that Zhu Xian's attack was derived from the 9's origin sovereign's divine ability, Mysterious Sky's Secret Shadow. As the true wielder of the Mysterious Sky's Secret Shadow, he naturally had an innate advantage against Zhu Xian's Heavenly Heaven Slash. You'll follow in Xian Qingyu's footsteps soon. Facing the Heavenly Heaven Slash, Night Sorrow roared and attacked with the God's Spear. This move was developed from the fusion of the God's Finger and the Mysterious Sky's Secret Shadow. In fact, the Eternal Sovereign's divine ability all came from the Myriad Tao divine ability. However, Night Sorrow had not noticed this before. Now, the Black Heaven True Self Slash's ultimate technique made him realize this. God Spear. Why does this move have the shadow of the Mysterious Sky's Secret Shadow? Seeing Night Sorrow unleash the God Spear, Supreme Zhu Xian's pupils immediately constricted. However, this thought only flashed across his mind and he did not say it out loud. Night Sorrow, who had successfully dodged the Heavenly Heaven Slash, pierced his dantian with a spear. Although the power of this spear that Night Sorrow had fused with was inferior to the God's Finger, its destructive power was similarly astonishing. It directly pierced through Supreme Zhu Xian's Feng Yu robe and body. Impossible, how is this possible? Supreme Zhu Xian did not expect that Night Sorrow had already grasped the core divine ability of the 9's origin sovereign. Having his dantian pierced through in one strike, his face was filled with disbelief. Nothing is impossible. If I can kill Xian Qingyu, I have the ability to kill you. Night Sorrow did not wish for Supreme Zhu Xian to reveal the secret. Without giving him a chance to continue speaking, he directly crushed his divine soul. Supreme Zhu Xian, who came from the 4 great holy lands, was completely killed by Night Sorrow in a single exchange. This time, the rest of the supreme martial artists were completely shocked. They instantly understood that a ruthless person had appeared in the realm of the gods. And his current cultivation level was only half a step away from being a supreme. They did not dare to believe that when Night Sorrow grew up and became a true supreme, what kind of combat power would he have? This Night Sorrow is not easy to deal with. Summon the top supreme martial artists. After being stunned for a moment, the 6 supreme martial artists who were besieging Night Sorrow began to communicate with each other through telepathy. Then, they did not dare to be careless and attacked Night Sorrow together. They wanted to win with numbers. Even Supreme Zhu Xian was killed in one strike. None of you are even half a step away from being an earthly sovereign. You still want to defeat me. After the small pagoda sucked Supreme Zhu Xian in, Night Sorrow and the other 6 supreme martial artists began to fight. Although the other party had the advantage in numbers, he was not afraid. However, the problem now was that they could not continue to fight because the supreme martial artists from other territories were still rushing over. Genius memorized this site's address in 1 second. Human mobile version reading website, M. Chapter 3045. However, what surprised Night Sorrow was that the other people in the heavenly realm were much stronger than he had imagined. Myriad Sword Sect and Xiao Tianxian, who had been healed by Yan Hengshi, were not weaker than the other supreme martial artists. They were even more powerful than before. Furthermore, Myriad Sword Sect even killed an intermediate supreme martial artist one-on-one. Although Xiao Tianxian did not kill a supreme martial artist one-on-one, he was able to disintegrate one supreme martial artist. He had to use a secret technique to barely escape. The other sovereigns were not as strong as the 2 of them, but everyone, including Jing Yun, was very valiant. Their combat power had increased by a lot. Especially Wu Lingfei, who was already vaguely catching up with Myriad Sword Sect and Xiao Tianxian. Facing a supreme martial artist alone, she was able to force him to retreat. Very good. Everyone's collective improvement is a rare good thing for the heavenly realm. While fighting, Night Sorrow was also paying attention to the other people in the heavenly realm, afraid that someone would be in danger. At first glance, he realized that he was worrying too much. After the baptism of the battle for Providence, the people in the heavenly realm had already grown into independent experts. If the original team participated in the battle for Providence, the heavenly realm would definitely be able to easily win the championship. Bastard, you dare to be distracted when fighting 1 against 6. Now, Night Sorrow was actually paying attention to the other people's battles in the battle. The few supreme martial artists who were fighting with him were completely enraged. One by one, they used their ultimate skills to fight with their lives. Night Sorrow, be careful. Although the supreme martial artists were not as strong as Supreme Zhu Xian individually, the 6 of them were fighting with their lives on the line, so the threat was obviously greater than Supreme Zhu Xian. Little 7 immediately reminded him. No worries. Although there are 6 of them, they are not a whole. Just defeat them one by one. But time is tight, we can't waste too much time with them. Attack, it must be a fatal blow. After replying to Little 7, Yi Shan withdrew his consciousness. Holding the golden heavenly halberd, he used God's shadow to dodge the attacks. At the same time, he unleashed a divine essence trapping formation and divine finger at one of the primes. He cleanly shattered his dantian. God's finger. What he used seems to be the long-lost God's finger. Could he be the reincarnation of supreme longevity? Seeing Night Sorrow shattering a supreme martial artist's dantian from a distance, some of the supreme martial artists present. The divine ability of the realm of the gods had disappeared for many years. Now that it had appeared once again, they began to doubt it. Whether he is reincarnated or not, quickly. He can use divine abilities, but we can't. How are we going to fight him? After Yi Shang displayed the long-lost divine ability of the god realm, many supremes began to fear him. Their god. It was rumored that the divine finger was the strongest attack of the eternal supreme. No one could withstand it. No one wanted Night Sorrow to open a hole in their body. God, another. After Yi Shang heavily injured the Supreme Being in front of him, Little Seven let out a human-like laugh and put him into the small pagoda. He turned it into rules and essence. Then, when they fought Night Sorrow again, the remaining Supreme Martial Artists changed their tactics. They no longer fought with their lives on the line. Instead, they fought with their lives on the line. However, Night Sorrow's combat power was almost at the level of a half-step earthly supreme. Even if they focused on defense, it would be difficult for them to resist him. It didn't take long for Night Sorrow to kill another 2 paragons. Now, there were only 3 paragons left in front of Night Sorrow. The 3 of them exchanged glances. How could they possibly have the courage to continue fighting? The Supreme Martial Artists who were fighting with the rest of the God world didn't notice Night Sorrow's situation at first. By the time they realized it, it was already too late. In the blink of an eye, Night Sorrow had killed 3 Supreme Martial Artists. He killed every time he attacked. He was like a god of death. At this point, the Supreme Martial Artists present were scared out of their wits. They all used their secret techniques to escape. Some of the Supreme Martial Artists who had rushed over saw so many Supreme Martial Artists running away, and they also ran away in fear. No one dared to continue fighting in the God world. Haha! Brother Yi, you are really brave. The power of the divine finger just now is amazing. The myriad sword sect laughed loudly. After Night Sorrow's power, the battle became like this. At the same time, he was quite interested in the divine finger. The divine finger is a good thing. But a man's wealth is his own ruin. You should wait until you become a Supreme Martial Artist and can take charge in the Supreme Space before you learn it. Night Sorrow could naturally see through the myriad sword sect's thoughts and said with a smile. Haha. Okay, I will wait for a while more. The myriad sword sect also smiled. He was a little embarrassed that Night Sorrow had seen through his thoughts. At this time, Yuan Fengshua laughed and said, Haha, it's okay. We are not in a hurry. If you are not strong enough to learn the divine finger, you will be targeted wherever you go. That's right. But if you encounter a dangerous situation, you have to fight with your lives on the line. I will teach you the divine finger in advance. This divine finger is very special and can only be taught one by one. But the advantage is that as long as you teach it, you will be able to learn it directly. Night Sorrow explained and continued, those weak Supreme Martial Artists have escaped, but it doesn't mean that the others will not come. Let's go directly to the big and small grotto heavens. Okay. Let's enter your space grotto heaven again. After Night Sorrow finished speaking, Wu Lingfei asked. Okay. My movement technique should be faster. After saying that, Night Sorrow kept everyone in the space grotto heaven and continued to rush to the big and small grotto heavens. Along the way, they were summoned 3 times, and each time, it was an earth-shattering battle. However, under Night Sorrow's continuous attacks, although the people of the heavenly realm were seriously exhausted and everyone, including Night Sorrow, was injured, no one died. Just like that, about 6 months later, they successfully arrived at the periphery of the big and small grotto heavens. Something's not right. There is obviously something going on inside. Just as they approached the periphery of the big and small grotto heavens, Night Sorrow felt that something was wrong and quickly stopped. Using the eye of the sea serpent, he saw that there were many formations set up around the big and small grotto heavens. And there were a few Supreme Martial Artists hiding around. These Supreme Martial Artists were all lower-level martial artists. Their strength was not very strong, but they were good at hiding. Obviously, they were hidden sentries. How can there be such a coincidence? We were just about to save people when we saw people coming to the big and small grotto heavens to look for opportunities. Master Wang Jian said unhappily. At this time, he was still in Night Sorrow's space grotto heaven, just like the others. There must be a rare treasure in the big and small grotto heavens that attracted some people here. I think this is our chance to become supreme martial artists. At this time, Night Sorrow recalled what Supreme Longevity said and said slowly. Genius remembered this site's address in 1 second. Human mobile version reading website. Chapter 3046. It's a good thing that a treasure has appeared in the big and small grotto heavens. We can't be absent. Thousand Sword Master said excitedly when he heard Night Sorrow's words. Even in the grotto heaven, he could not suppress his desire to fight. He realized that after Night Sorrow's appearance, the strength of the people around him had increased by more than one level. It's a good thing. But looking at the situation in front of us, it might be a great danger. There must be many experts inside. Night Sorrow used the eye of the sea serpent to observe the formation in front of them for a long time. He was sure that the person who had set up the formation was at least a half-step earthly sovereign. Of course we're going in. Do we barge in or think of some other way? Thousand Sword Master asked. Xiao Tianxian and the rest did not say anything, but they were also paying attention. Obviously, they were looking forward to becoming earthly sovereigns. Let's kill the few hidden sentries in front of us first, then let the restriction-breaking hammer try to break the formation without anyone noticing. Then we'll have enough time to hide in the dark. After communicating with the restriction-breaking hammer, Night Sorrow said. Although the formation in front of them was very mysterious, the restriction-breaking hammer had the ability to break it. Then, he added, of course. If we can capture these earthly sovereigns alive, that would be even better. We can ask who's in there, and when the people inside ask about it, we'll be able to respond easily. It won't be easy. After all, they are earthly sovereigns. It's already very difficult to kill them without anyone noticing, let alone capture them alive. Xiao Tianxian said with a frown when he heard the plan. There are a total of 6 of them, and they're hiding in different places. It's not easy to kill them without anyone noticing. How about this, I'll teach you the divine finger. When the time comes, we'll find the right time to kill them with a single blow. After thinking about it, Night Sorrow felt that this was the best choice for now. If it were not for the current situation, he would not have taught them the divine finger so early. So suddenly. Hearing Night Sorrow's words, everyone in the realm of God hesitated. After all, this was not going according to plan. From the looks of it, this is the safest way. Yi Shang added. Then, he led the people of the God realm away and found a safe place. Before imparting the God's finger to everyone, Night Sorrow frowned and said, actually, imparting the God's finger to everyone is not something difficult. However, we must ensure that the divine abilities of the divine realm are not learned by outsiders. Let's make an oath right now. He would never impart the secret technique to anyone. After all, things like divine abilities could only be passed down from one person to another. You can't learn it through soul-searching techniques. After Night Sorrow finished speaking, Xiao Tianxian looked at the others and said. Then, he took the initiative to swear a deadly oath. This meant that even if he died, he would not impart this ability to anyone else. After Xiao Tianxian finished his oath, the others followed suit and made their oaths. After they finished their vows, Night Sorrow began to teach them the divine arts one by one. In less than 20 breaths of time, he finished teaching them. Time is of the essence. Everyone, quickly comprehend it. However, there's no need to test it out to avoid alerting the enemy. After all, the distance is not far. After imparting the divine abilities, Night Sorrow allowed everyone to comprehend it for a while before keeping them back into the space cave. With the help of the concealment rune, Night Sorrow found a suitable location and divided everyone into 5 groups. He placed them near the 5 supreme beings while he faced one of them alone. Everyone, get ready. I will count down from 1. Everyone, use your god's finger to kill the enemy. One of you will attack the Dantian while the other one will attack the deity ocean. After placing everyone down, Night Sorrow said, "Don't worry. We are all ready." Master Wan Jian said excitedly. The others were the same. After all, none of them had used their divine abilities before. All right. Then I shall begin. 3, 2, 1. Asterisk boom. 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 Asterisk. When Yi Shang counted to 1, everyone attacked the supreme martial artists who were not far away from them from 6 different directions. With the help of the god's finger, the 6 supreme beings were all killed without making a sound. Just in case, Night Sorrow did not leave any of them alive. Restriction breaking hammer, it's up to you now. After keeping the teleportation stones and other items of the 6 supreme beings, Night Sorrow asked Little Seven to absorb them all. Then, he summoned the restriction breaking hammer. This kind of formation may be very mysterious to you. But to us, it's nothing at all. We can break it with a wave of our hand. After the male hammer was summoned, it immediately cooperated with the female hammer and successfully broke a hole in the formation. At this time, Wu Lingfei asked, "Are you sure this won't alert the people inside?" Absolutely not. Unless there is a heavenly supreme inside. The female hammer, who recognized Wu Lingfei as its master, replied. That's good. Let's go in. After getting a positive answer, Wu Lingfei looked at everyone and said, "No hurry. We can set up some more formations on top of this formation. This way, we can know in advance if anyone comes." Yi Shang said as he casually set up some array formations nearby. Among them, there was an illusion formation, a trap formation, and a concealment formation. In the concealment formation, there were a few image stones. Shall we go in together or enter your space grotto heaven again? When everyone was about to enter the grotto heavens, Xiao Tianxian looked at Night Sorrow again. It will be safer for everyone to hide in my space grotto heaven. However, I think that since we are representing the heavenly realm, we should go in together. After all, the heavenly realm does not belong to me alone. Night Sorrow smiled and said to everyone. After teaching them the god's finger, he had a deeper level of confidence in everyone's strength. All right. Being taken care of by you all the time has lowered our vigilance and we have become dependent on you. This is not good. Jin Xian said with a smile as he walked into the grotto heavens. However, after walking for a short distance, he frowned and said, "What a strong smell of blood." From the position of the cave, there should have been a battle. Indeed. Everyone, be careful. Using the sea serpent's eye, Night Sorrow looked into the distance and found that there were many torn corpses in the dark cave. The corpses of these cultivators were all in a horrible state. Night Sorrow, can you see anything? As everyone walked into the cave, the smell of blood became stronger and stronger. Murongji pointed the way and asked. This cave is not simple. If I'm not wrong, this is a land of death. There is a terrifying existence here. Before Night Sorrow could say anything, Xiongji spoke first. The seal-breaking bronze hammers had an extraordinary understanding of space. With a simple look, they were sure that there was no way out. There was no way out. Moreover, there were torn corpses all around. This was different from what they had imagined before they came in. Genius memorized the address in 1 second. Human mobile version reading website. Chapter 3047. Seal-breaking hammer, work together and try to break the seal. Everyone else, be on guard. After the seal-breaking hammer made its judgment, Night Sorrow immediately reminded everyone to be on guard. The smell of blood here was too strong. Obviously, the corpses nearby had been killed not long ago. It was very likely that there was a horrifying existence in this sealed cave. However, even when Night Sorrow used the sea serpent's eye to observe, he did not find anything. When Night Sorrow did not find anything, Jing Yun shouted, "Not good. I feel that something is spying on us. Jing Yun is the weakest. The thing hiding in the dark might want to attack her. Everyone, get ready to attack." Thinking of the miserable corpses around him, Night Sorrow's heart clenched as he stood beside Jing Yun. Moreover, the others in the realm of the gods also unconsciously moved closer. In an instant, the temperature in the dark cave dropped a lot. Even though everyone was a dominator, they could still feel the coldness in their bones. There's a murderous aura. It's very strong. In the tense atmosphere, Night Sorrow suddenly transmitted his voice to everyone. This time, although the sea serpent's eye did not see anything, he could already feel the terrifying murderous aura. It's coming. I can feel it. It's coming. As soon as Night Sorrow finished speaking, Jing Yun shouted. Then, she condensed her divine origin energy and used the divine finger in a direction. As her divine finger lit up the distance, everyone saw a headless armored corpse slowly crawling out of the soil. As for Xiang Yu's attack, it might have been due to panic, but it did not hit its target. This armored corpse should have the strength of an earthly sovereign when it was alive. Now, it should be a half-step earthly sovereign. However, it is stronger than an ordinary half-step earthly sovereign. After all, it had comprehended the rules of an earthly sovereign when it was alive. Everyone, be careful. Little Seven glanced at the armored corpse in front of them and immediately reminded everyone. If it's alone, there's nothing to be afraid of. However, if the number keeps increasing, it will be difficult to deal with. After using the sea serpent's eye to observe the headless armored corpse, Night Sorrow said coldly. The armored corpse's aura was strong and full of murderous aura. However, the giant axe in its hand was already blunt. Who cares how many there are? Let's fight. The 10,000 sword sect roared and took the lead to charge forward. In everyone's opinion, Jing Yun's cultivation time was too short after all, so she was still a little weak. Roar! Just as Master 10,000 Sword swung his sword at the armored zombie. Out of nowhere, the headless armored zombie let out a roar. Then, he swung his axe fiercely at the 10,000 Sword sect. The precepts contained within this swing were clearly stronger than the myriad sword sect's attack. With a boom, the master of the 10,000 swords was sent flying. If it wasn't for his sword's quality, it would have been broken. This thing is quite capable, everyone be careful. After being sent flying by a single blow, Master Wan Jian felt that his breathing was a little labored, so he immediately reminded everyone. Just as he spoke, the armored zombie charged at him ferociously. This time, the armored zombie didn't swing the giant axe in his hand. Instead, he stretched out his hands in an attempt to tear the myriad sword sect to shreds. Seeing this scene, Night Sorrow and the others could no longer stand still. Godly Spear. After condensing his elemental energy, Yishan immediately shot out the Godly Spear. This Godly Spear, with the help of Godly Shadow, was extremely fast and wasn't inferior to the Godly Finger. As soon as he finished speaking, Night Sorrow's attack had already landed on the armored zombie's body. The clanging sound of metal colliding rang out in the enclosed space. The armored zombie, which was about to tear the master of the 10,000 sword sect to shreds, was blasted a few hundred feet away. A few hundred feet wasn't a short distance, but for a cultivator at Night Sorrow's level, it wasn't far at all. When he bombarded the armored zombie's body, he felt like he was hitting a solid piece of iron. This armored zombie's body is very strong, everyone be careful. After helping the master of the 10,000 swords sect up, Night Sorrow reminded everyone. The attack just now made him realize that the armored zombie's body was obviously stronger than an ordinary half-step earthly sovereign. Thank you. I was a little careless just now. If it weren't for you, I'm afraid I would have been torn to shreds. After the master of the 10,000 swords sect got up, he said with lingering fear. During the exchange just now, cold sweat flowed down his back. If it weren't for Night Sorrow's timely intervention, his body would have been torn to shreds in a moment of carelessness. The armored zombie's strength was obviously stronger than what the master of the 10,000 swords sect had imagined. Let's not talk about this for now, let's continue to fight. Although the armored zombie is strong, it shouldn't be invulnerable. After helping the master of the 10,000 swords sect up, Night Sorrow once again condensed his divine origin energy and attacked the armored zombie with the godly finger. When Night Sorrow attacked, the rest of the people in the realm of the gods also attacked with the godly finger. Although the armored zombie's body was strong, its speed wasn't fast. Although it knew how to dodge, it didn't manage to avoid these attacks. However, only Night Sorrow's attack managed to penetrate its armor. The others' attacks didn't have much effect. This thing's defense is too terrifying. Jin Xian's brows furrowed in shock when he saw that the armored zombie hadn't suffered much damage despite being bombarded by a barrage of attacks. After all, the godly finger's attack power was very sharp. It's okay. Being able to penetrate its defense proves that it isn't invulnerable. Little 7, if it loses its ability to resist, can you swallow it? This thing was an earthly sovereign when it was alive. If you swallow it, you should be able to gain a lot of benefits, right? Night Sorrow asked Little Tower as he cooperated with the others to attack the armored zombie. Little 7 replied with certainty, in this situation, I definitely can't. But if it loses its ability to resist, then we will definitely gain a lot. In addition to the previous accumulation, I can help one of you become an earthly sovereign in a short period of time. Good. Very good. Night Sorrow was shocked when he heard Little 7's reply. Whether it was him or the others, their strength would increase greatly when they became earthly sovereigns. This was definitely a great thing for the Grotto Heavens. However, the battle in front of them was obviously more difficult than they had imagined. Although everyone attacked together, they quickly suppressed the armored zombie. Just as the armored zombie was about to lose its ability to fight, it suddenly let out an earth-shattering roar. After the roar, dozens of specters with the strength of earthly sovereigns immediately appeared in the cave. Every single one of these soul-like spirits was extremely ferocious. Although they were specters, they still had the ability to fight. After they appeared, they cooperated with the armored zombie to launch a terrifying soul attack on the people in the realm of the gods. The strength of the soul attack made Night Sorrow feel that it was a little difficult to deal with. Chapter 30-48. Such a terrifying divine soul attack is hard to deal with. What should we do? Seeing so many divine souls unleashing such a powerful divine soul attack, Murong Zhenlu anxiously shouted. His shouts filled the cave. Murong Zhenlu's shouts had the intention of disrupting the morale of the army. Xiao Tianxian shouted in dissatisfaction, "What are you shouting for? This is a sealed space, we are fighting with our backs against the wall. There is no way out. If you want to live, fight with your life." But, Murong Zhenlu wanted to say something, but he was quickly entangled by two divine souls. Under their attacks, Murong Zhenlu quickly lost the ability to resist. Night Sorrow. Murong Zhenlu seems to be unable to resist. Night Sorrow, who was in the middle of the battle, had consumed a lot of his divine soul. He had no time to look around, so he did not notice the problem with Murong Zhenlu. It was little Seven who reminded him. Bastard! Turning around to look at Murong Jinlu, Knight Sorrow's eyes immediately changed. At this moment, he had been completely defeated, and his divine soul was being torn apart. Knight Sorrow did not hesitate at all. He directly used Soft Dragon Roar to push back the two divine souls that were fighting Murong Jinlu. Then, he kept them in his space grotto heaven. He asked, "Jinlu, how are you? Luckily you acted in time, or else I would have died." Murong Jinlu's face revealed a bitter smile. After surviving a disaster, his mood was a bit uneasy. But at this moment, he still reminded, "Don't worry about me, there are still others. These damn things are too hard to deal with. Don't worry. I will think of a way." Knight Sorrow transmitted his voice to Murong Jinlu, then continued to fight with the divine souls. Although everyone tried their best to resist, they were still at a disadvantage. The headless armored corpse, which had been injured earlier, was also gradually recovering. When it completely returned to the battlefield, everyone in the heavenly realm was completely suppressed. This won't do. If this goes on, we will all die here. Everyone, take out whatever secret treasures you have. Even if we self-destruct, it is better than being killed ourselves. Thousand Swords Master shouted. We know that too. But what he could take out, he had taken out almost all of them. After all, even the Restriction Breaker Hammer and Little Seven have joined the battle. Jin Xian replied helplessly. The current situation was simply too passive. A trace of despair gradually rose in everyone's hearts. Right at this critical moment, Knight Sorrow suddenly shouted, "Primal Chaos! Come out quickly! Suck all these souls into your Primal Chaos space. We'll deal with them in the Primal Chaos space. Good. Watch me." When the chaotic heavenly crystal beast received Knight Sorrow's order, it immediately came out of the spatial paradise. He had just achieved the upper level 9 Heaven Supreme Realm not long ago. His aura was extremely strong. After he appeared, he completely exploded. Together with Knight Sorrow, they fought against the headless armored corpse and sucked everyone into the chaotic space. Then, he shouted, "Knight Sorrow! I'll hold off this armored zombie. You go in and deal with those Supreme Being spirits." Good. You just have to hold it back. Knight Sorrow said and also entered the Primal Chaos space. In the Primal Chaos space, he could be considered half a master, and he was completely familiar with it. It was completely different when he fought against those Supreme Being spirits. After the Supreme Being spirits were suppressed, Knight Sorrow completely exploded and quickly finished off a few of them. At this time, he shouted, "Everyone, now is the best opportunity. If we delay any longer, the Primal Chaos space will not be able to suppress them." Okay. The others made a long story short and immediately attacked. With everyone's cooperation, these originally extremely terrifying Supreme Being spirits were destroyed one by one. The chaotic heavenly crystal beast has really done a meritorious deed this time. Without it, we might have all died this time. After finishing off these Supreme Being spirits, Xiao Tianxian said with lingering fear. Boom! Right at this moment, they who were within the chaotic space immediately sensed a strand of extremely powerful collision force. Not good. The Primal Chaos space can't resist the armored zombie. Let's go help immediately. Knight Sorrow, who had also relaxed a little, realized this problem and immediately shouted. Okay. Let's kill that headless armored zombie together. Myriad Sword Sect also said. Then, everyone in the Heavenly Realm territory came out of the Primal Chaos space. As soon as they returned to the cave, they saw the chaotic heavenly crystal beast's huge body that had been knocked down. Although its body was incomparably huge, its combat strength was much weaker than the armored zombies. If it wasn't for Night Sorrow immediately striking the armored zombie with the divine finger as soon as he appeared, the armored zombie would have been killed. Primal Chaos. You've done well this time. Jing Yun, give all the earthly supreme rules and essence to the primal chaos. The chaotic heavenly crystal beast was seriously injured, so Night Sorrow immediately asked Jing Yun to take out the champion's reward that had not been absorbed and give it to the chaotic heavenly crystal beast. I'm fine, I just need to rest for a while. After the chaotic heavenly crystal beast collected the resources, it returned to Night Sorrow's grotto heaven to recover. At this time, it had already contacted Night Sorrow's battle pet contract and was considered friends. As for Yi Shang and the others, they no longer called him it. Okay. You rest in peace. I will avenge you for being injured. Night Sorrow transmitted his voice and once again held the golden heavenly halberd in his hand. The armored zombie's body was very strong, and its combat strength was astonishing. Among the people present, only he could fight against it. Then, Night Sorrow restrained the armored zombie while the others bombarded it from a distance. After fighting for about 6 hours, they finally defeated the armored zombie completely. Little Seven, quickly suck it into the tower. When the armored zombie lost its combat strength, Night Sorrow immediately reminded Little Seven. Don't worry. I've long been ready. Hearing this, Little Seven instantly sucked the armored zombie into the tower. Although it was only on the 7th level of the Eternal Divine Tower, its functions were still very powerful. After sucking the armored zombie in, it quickly converted it into rules and energy. After doing all this, Little Seven said, at present, except for Night Sorrow, any one of you can quickly advance to the supreme stage if you enter the tower to cultivate. Who will go first? How long will it take to advance to the supreme stage? After Little Seven finished speaking, Night Sorrow asked. If he wanted to advance to the supreme stage, he needed more rules and essence than the others. Little Seven in front of him couldn't help him much. It depends on comprehension. If it's not bad, a few years will be enough. Little Seven thought for a moment and replied. Then, everyone in the Heavenly Realm territory immediately discussed who should go first. Originally, everyone recommended the Myriad Sword sect because he was more brave and would be the first to face any danger. If he could advance to the supreme stage, it would be a very good improvement for the entire team. However, Genius remembered this site's address in 1 second. Human mobile version reading website, you're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.